Is it working? Welcome everyone to episode 70 of the Looks Like a Movie podcast. My name is Kevin. I'm here with Doug and Owen, and Sydney is here returning as a guest today to talk about The Watchers, the directorial debut of Ishana Night Shyamalan. Later in the episode, we've got a first for the podcast, an interview that Doug did with Mark Sexton, the storyboard artist on Furiosa, a Mad Max saga. But first,
Wow.
as always, we're going to talk about what we watched this past week. Who wants to go first?
I can go. If no one wants to do it. So a lot of the stuff I watched this week, I'm not going to talk about because we're going to do that next week with our Hitman Linklater episode. But I did watch some other stuff earlier in the week. I started the week off with Michael Gordon's Pillow Talk that stars Doris Day and Rock Hudson, which I really like that movie. I think, Kevin, you should watch that one. And then I was like, oh, I'll just watch more Rock Hudson movies because I thought he was really great. So I watched All That Heaven Allows, the Douglas Sirk movie.
Oh, yeah.
Fantastic. Yeah, not like some underrated gem, but that one's definitely a classic to knock off. And then I watched Written on the Wind, which is just another Sirk Hudson collaboration, which is pretty good. Not as good as Heaven Allows, but I thought that was pretty good. And then I watched Death Game, which is a 1977 horror movie that Eli Roth remade into Knock Knock, which I think the premise of those movies is really interesting. I like both of them. They're definitely different in terms of like the approach tonally, but I think the like basic concept is really cool. I like that movie a lot. And then then I just watched a bunch of Linklater stuff. So that's
Right.
my not
Yeah, that's
nothing
most of
too
my week
crazy this
as
Nice.
well.
week. Nothing too crazy, but we'll talk about a lot of that next week.
I think you would like that Bitter Tears of Petra von Camp movie. I watched a
Yeah.
few weeks ago because Fassbinder cited
Talks about Sir.
Douglas Sirk as like inspiration for that, and it's pretty evident.
Yeah.
Sydney, you want to go?
Sure. I'm trying to think because I have been really bad at updating my letterbox recently. But I saw The Watchers and the new Bad Boys movie. Yeah, I know. I saw The Watchers. And I watched all the other Bad Boys movies, and I'd never seen any of them. So now I'm all caught up, and I actually really love the Bad Boys franchise. I think it's like my Fast and Furious now because I was never into Fast and Furious. Um, and I've just been like really obsessed with Michael Bay this week. Like I went down a big rabbit hole of what like I watched Pain and Gain, I watched Bad Boys 2, and I've just been watching like a bunch of interviews with him and stuff. And he's so fascinating. Like I kind of hate him, but I love his movies a lot, and so it's just been cool like hearing him talk about his career and like how he like makes his movies. But that's we covered Perfect Blue over on my podcast. That was the first time I'd seen that, and I loved it. And I think tonight I'm gonna watch that new shark movie, Under Paris.
That looks so good. That
Have
looks
any
Is
of
so
that
you
good.
have
is that
any
a
of you watched
streaming
it?
movie?
It's
Yeah,
on
it's a Netflix
Netflix.
movie. I
Okay.
haven't seen it yet. I'm gonna
Yeah,
watch it with my
I
mom, I
heard
think.
about
That
it.
movie looks
Yeah.
like it
Oh
rocks.
shit.
There's also that new Dakota Johnson movie that got put on streaming
Yeah.
yesterday, right? I haven't watched that
Oh,
either.
I
People
saw
seem to be
that.
liking that.
Yeah, I saw it at Sundance, like not this year, but the previous year,
Wow.
and it was super cute. And it took so long for it to get a release, so I'm glad it's out because it's good.
Yeah. Doug, what have you been watching? Mostly Linklater stuff, or?
Not even bro. So I've been I've been okay, so yeah, I watched a couple Linklater movies. I liked both of them a lot. And I watched Bad Boys 2. Other
Mhm.
than that, I've been like reading books and like
Touching
going
grass.
outside.
Touching grass.
Yeah. Um so yeah, my priorities are kind of messed up right now, but yeah.
Right.
Other than that.
Okay. I have similarly not been watching much outside of Linklater stuff. I watched The Fault in Our Stars again because it was the 10-year anniversary.
Aw.
All-time favorite. You guys get it. I don't have to talk about that one. And I've been watching, other than Linklater, the new season of Love Island, which has started this past
Oh.
week. and is always a blast. And I'm not going to talk about Love Island.
Yeah, do a recap. Do a quick.
I could do a quick recap. I could do the
20-second
important bits.
recap. Yeah.
The
Somebody start the
important
20-minute timer so you break down.
20-minute timer.
the important bits for people who are fans of Love Island. I know a lot of people stopped watching the recent seasons because they think they suck, and this one is off to a really hot start. So I would recommend people who like the early seasons of Love Island watch this one, because it's a lot of fun and there's a lot of drama. And this one girl, Harriet, has already cried like 6 times, and it's only the first week, and she is just like, there's just drama surrounding her all the time. And apparently she's a shitty person off the show as well, which makes it even more fun to watch her on the show. Definitely worth checking out.
Oh my
good stuff.
Wow.
gosh.
That's Love Island. And that's a somewhat good transition to the movie that we're talking about, The Watchers, which features a Love Island parody amongst other things.
Oh yeah.
What did you guys think? Not about the Love Island thing, just about the movie.
This feels like a movie that is produced by M. Night Shyamalan, you know? In a
Yeah.
way that feels pretty distinct. And obviously, like, anybody could produce it's a short story or whatever, but it's like it feels, I don't know, while watching I'm like, man, this has like the same fucking setup and twist as Devil. Like,
Oh my
you know,
god.
where it's like how it's like, oh, we have like a bunch of people like in a confined space together, and then the spoilers for Devil and The Watchers, I guess. Fuck. No, I shouldn't spoil
Starting
it.
off watch.
Are we
Like-
are there spoilers in this for the Watchers? Are we doing that?
Yeah, we're allowed to talk
Yeah,
spoilers.
yeah,
We
yeah,
can, you know,
It's the
audience
old
knows.
lady.
Audience
It's the
knows.
old women.
No.
What's going on,
Like, what the
Shyamalan?
heck?
And it's the same thing in Devil.
Yeah,
No,
that actually, now that I told you the spoiler, there's no reason to watch Devil. Yeah, it's the
No,
old lady.
Devil kind of rocks. I
I
like Devil.
loved that movie as a kid.
Oh.
Have you seen it since?
No, I haven't seen it since.
I just
Oh,
watched it.
okay.
Yeah, so I loved it as a kid because it came out in 2010.
It was like
and-
PG-13.
Yeah, and I just watched it, and it kind of has sauce. I don't know. I enjoyed it. It's kind of stupid.
I was
but
scared to watch it as a kid.
It's entertaining.
You were scared of the
Um,
devil?
I there was like movies where like if you saw the cover for them, or just like a commercial on TV late at night for them, the idea of them scared me, and therefore I thought they were like the most terrifying thing ever, and I didn't watch them.
Fair.
Any movie I saw a trailer for, any horror movie I saw a trailer for past like 10 p.m. on a school night, I was immediately too scared to watch.
That happened to me with The Haunting in Connecticut.
Another
remember
movie
that
that I was scared
trailer?
to watch. Another movie
trailer
I
was
was scared
so
to watch
freaky.
as a kid.
Yeah.
Yeah. They would just like, I would just be watching basketball games late at night as a kid, and then randomly they put on like a horror trailer at like
Yeah.
11 at night, and I'm like, I am terrified now. I just want to watch basketball. Anyway, The Watchers is Ishana Night Shyamalan's debut as well.
I think it's a really interesting situation that like it doesn't happen often. Like we get like daughters and sons directing, but I think like it's something like Sofia Coppola has just kind of always existed for us. So we're not like old enough to like have that be like a new thing. And like we had Brandon Cronenberg recently, but it's such an interesting
but he
experience.
sucks.
Exactly, he sucks. He fucking sucks. No, but it's such an interesting experience. As much as we talk about M. Night on here, to go into this, and you can see how like she was definitely brought up in an M. Night household. And I watched an interview with her, and she was asked like, what are the M. Night movies that mean the most to you? And she brought up Lady in the Water and The Village, right?
I saw that. I was like, me too, girl.
And this movie, when I was watching this movie, it was like, am I making connections to M. Night movies because I know that she's his daughter, or like, are there just like seeds in here? And the two movies that I thought of were Lady in the Water and The Village. I think there are parts in the movie where it's like, are they going like a Village twist route? Like, especially in that beginning where she first is like, these guys aren't real, like the Watchers aren't real. It's very much like, are they like, she's like trapped in a place where these like things aren't real. And also like all like the fairy mythological stuff, like that is all like very Lady in the Water, which I think is very interesting. And she also like, I mean, she did assistant directing on both Old and Knock at the Cabin, and she directed like 6 episodes of the show, wrote like 10 of them. So she went through like M. Night boot camp, and then she's been around his movies his whole life. So there definitely is like some through lines, which is very interesting because I mean art is such like a personal thing, and it's such like a reflection of who you are. So to be like a child of someone who's made art their whole life, it's just a very interesting thing on the outside looking in, watching this kind of unfold and start, because again she's very young, and this seems to be a start of a longer career. But I think we'll get into specifics of the movie, but I think overall this is like a very solid debut that I think some people are being a little too harsh on. Like I think
Oh yeah,
it's just like a solid little movie. Like I think it definitely has its debut issues, but I think like some people are being a little too harsh on it.
I'll double down on what Owen's saying, but I'll say like I looked at when I logged this movie on Letterboxd last night. I looked at the rating. The only negative ratings were Sophie Holsinger and members of the Real Talk podcast. Everybody else
Oh.
is like kind of having a
But
Oh,
good
I have
time.
like a ton of negative ratings. I mean,
Yeah,
it's
Kevin
already at
follows
like a
random
two.
people.
I'm seeing a
It's
lot
already
of
at
like
like a 2.7
2.5s.
on
I
Yeah.
think like at the highest
Letterboxd.
is like I don't think I've seen a 4,
I have
but
not.
it's been
No,
like
Yeah,
I have.
but it's like
but
not a
it's like
great movie. It's like
yeah. No, but I'm saying
I
like it's been solid. I think
yeah.
I think that this is arguably like best case scenario for her to be like her first, because she's inheriting all of these expectations that people
Mhm.
put on M. Night. She's
Yeah.
a woman of color, she's very young, and her dad is like one of the biggest receivers of
Hate.
racism when it
Yeah,
comes,
yeah,
and
yeah.
hate,
Yeah.
and just so divisive when it comes to popular American directors. If the movie was really bad, which it's not, it's like, yeah,
Yeah.
it's like fine, it's like okay, it shows promise, but she
Mhm.
also didn't have this like big movie like he did, where now she is going to have so many
Yeah.
expectations put on
Sure.
her going forward, and she's going to get put in a box. So I feel
Mhm.
like it's kind of like only up from here. Like
Yeah.
she got her first feature out of the way. But what do you guys think is like? Do you think there is like promise here for her films to get better? Or
Oh
is it
yeah.
kind of like
Yeah.
she's not going to be another M Night?
I I didn't even like when I was because I saw everybody's reaction before watching the movie because I didn't watch it until like 10:30 at night last night. So I saw everybody else already like come out of it and give it 1 star or whatever.
Mm.
Mhm.
And I'm watching it, and for like the first like 2/3 of the movie, I had no idea what people were talking about. I was like, this is a totally fine movie. Like I don't even know what people like in the third act. I was like, okay, this kind of feels like a debut at times, but like for like at least like 45 minutes to start the movie, I was just like, this is just a pretty good movie. Like I don't even
Yeah.
know why people are complaining. I was like, and it was like directed well also. Like I was like, I mean, I was even saying it to my friend during the movie. I was like, this is pretty cool. Like I didn't really get that reception at all. Like I think you're right. I think she only can get better.
Well, obviously like technically, like in terms of
Sure.
like craft, she can only get better, right? But she also wrote this movie, and I think that there are ways to learn the wrong lessons from making this movie and become a worse writer maybe.
Sure.
But
I mean,
just
I
because
could
like
complain about some of the writing for
yeah,
sure.
just because like it is so like I mean and maybe I don't know much about the story that like the if it's a short story or a book that this
I
is
think it's a
adapting.
book.
Okay, I don't know much about that, but it's like the way that this movie seems so interested in like the in like the specifics of like the lore of the fairies and shit is like so not interesting or worthwhile in the film. So
Yes.
like and just like stuff like that I think is just like focusing on the wrong things in your screenplay and like not
Yeah.
editing correctly. Editing, that sounds
Well,
so harsh, but
no,
like you know
you're
what I
right.
mean.
And
Um
there's like I mean, I said it to my friends after the movie that there was like it's very obviously doing that like I don't actually care about like the dialogue or whatever. Like that's what people will see and be like, "Oh, this is written really badly," which like I don't think is a problem. I just think that they do kind of the horror thing where they introduce like a traumatic past, and then that's like the entire character's characterization. Like we
Yeah.
don't actually know anything about her or anybody else in the book. Like we learn a lot about the Watchers
Fairies. Yeah,
and
the Watchers.
everything surrounding them. We don't know anything about a single human character, and then at the end of the movie, the whole like message being like, "Well, humans could be good." It's like we don't know anything about them at
Yeah.
all, actually.
I think my least favorite part of the movie is when I forgot their name. She said they say her name so much, but I forgot her name. The old lady character when they're escaping towards the end, and they find like this big rock, and she's
Madeline.
like Madeline, and Madeline. They find this big rock, and Madeline's like, "Oh, must have been where the humans locked away the Watchers." So, and I'm like,
Yeah.
"What? Like, what the fuck? What are you
Yeah.
talking about?"
Yeah, that
It's like
stuff's
shit.
all a bit messy.
Yeah.
There's a lot of talking, and then there's a lot of like things that people commonly use to dump exposition, except the whole movie is already people talking and doing exposition. So I'm like when they do the videotapes of the professor like explaining everything, I'm like, you've already been telling us stuff all movie. Like I don't really think you need to
Yeah.
use this to tell us more.
I
Like, because
honestly
there's just a
kind of
lot.
like I liked that part. Like I like because the whole movie I was like, how the fuck did the coop even get there? Like it's not like the
Right.
Watchers built
Yeah.
it. And so I actually liked learning about that and see and also the detail that he like was like taking workers out there and just leaving them to die. I
Yeah,
was
that's
like,
kind
that's
of
pretty
crazy.
brutal.
Yeah.
But yeah, but then when it ends, it's kind of like it is like a twist that you kind of see coming from the beginning. You're like I'm not sure exactly what it's going to be, but then it becomes pretty obvious what's about to happen. And it's hard not to draw parallels to her dad's work with The Village and with Lady in the Water. And people complain about the dialogue in those films and that it sounds wooden or whatever, but I think here there's the characterization is so weak. Like M Night's films are impactful because they are also high concept, but they're character driven in a way that I don't think this film
Yeah.
really was. And so I just had so many questions. I'm like, it says that the woods like attract lost people. I'm like, I don't even know why Georgina Campbell's character is even here. Like, why? And then they're like dancing, and the other kid is like, Daddy was a drunk. Like, that was like all
Yeah.
we kind of learned about
And
that.
it's like really kind of like the emotional height of it at the end is when they're like at the house and then she goes to like save Georgina Campbell's character or whatever. Or, like she's like worried about her, but like you don't
Yeah.
know why she's even still relevant to the movie once they're out of the woods.
Right.
Like it's like why is she even going over there with her?
That was the thing too. I felt like that. I don't know if it was like it happened in the editing process, but there were a lot of times where I thought that time jumps happened, and I didn't really feel like we spent enough time. Like Dakota Fan or what is it? Nina or Mina?
Mina.
Mina.
Yeah, Mina.
She kind of just like takes charge right away, and she's kind of like right about things immediately. And then we skip to winter, and they're starving, and I was just like, I feel like I don't care about any of what's going on because it's going through these things super quickly.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
felt like that she like disrupted the whole thing and like while being there for like 2 or 3 days, and then we
Yeah.
skipped like a whole month where nothing changed, and it's like okay, all right. It's like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
um,
You know what I did like was, well, at times I like them, I guess. Like the actual like watcher creatures, especially when you can't totally see that. Like that one scene where they escape and they're stuck like in the woods outside, and you just see like their big kind of
like
like they rise up
Slenderman.
and yeah,
They look
exactly.
like the
Like
aliens
that,
from Signs. Or I was like,
yeah,
am
like
I just
that was
seeing M
fucking
Night stuff?
awesome.
Yeah.
That was so cool. I just didn't like when like later on you see them on like the beach and it's like they're like turning into humans and it's like a whole
Hmm.
crowd of I was like that looks fucking dumb. But when you like actually can't totally see them,
Yeah. I
I
think
think
they
they
look
look
best
so
like
good.
that.
Did you guys ever question whether they were real or not?
No, I
I
questioned.
didn't.
So like there were they introduce like the hallucinations, which aren't really hallucinations, kind of early on, where it's like, oh, like the Dakota character seeing like the little girls and stuff in the woods, and I thought those were fake, but like we like they're banging on the window, so I'm like, oh, there's something happening, like.
Right.
I guess early on, like when I said like the village twist, like early on, I think when she goes into that like hole and she's like finding random stuff, I was just like, oh, are they gonna go the route of like I don't know. There's like some hire people up to something. I wasn't really sure what the twist was, but that was in my mind of like it might be something different than like we're seeing here. But
Hmm.
it immediately like as we start seeing more stuff, I'm like, okay, that's not the route they're going.
Well, when she
But I
went
think they're
down,
definitely trying to guide you into some direction that's not.
yeah, when she went into the burrow and she looked at that newspaper and it said something about like
The-
peace, I was like, is this like the abyss? Like, are the Watchers here because humans are
yeah,
awful and they're trying to like teach us a lesson or something? But then, and then I thought the lore was interesting, but then I was like, so I don't understand the motivations of the Watchers. Like, if they can't leave the forest, what are they going to
yeah.
do once they
If
can become people? And
they're
even
just
if they
gonna
could,
chill out.
yeah, like even if they could leave the forest, what's the plan?
Hmm.
I
Yeah,
don't
there's
really know
Yeah.
what
kind
they
of this like
wanted. I don't know what's
there's
going on thematically.
there's like reference to this like war that happened, right? Or I don't know how to
Yeah.
like there's like a war between them and humans, and like
Uh-huh.
and they keep kind of talking about this past, and I'm not
A lot
entirely
of it
sure what it's hinting at.
a lot of it feels like a little just too big for like the debut. Like it just a lot of
Right.
it is like, oh, this is just way bigger than she can handle right now. Or just things like even like the ending, it feels like it's like setting up like more. I just everything kind of feels like the in universe is like way bigger than like we can handle right now, and it's often like less is more and less is good right now. Like we should I don't know. There's
Yeah.
everything seems too big for what's going
It's
on.
it seems like kind of like a in some ways it seems like it's a trashy like attempt at making a franchise, you know?
Yeah, well,
Like taking
like the end shot where like the like Madeline is like that little girl and she like looks at like the camera. It's like what?
yeah.
Yeah, that
I
was a little bit
I hope
confusing.
you're right, Mina.
yeah yeah. And then she like we're gonna need a
I think they
spin-off
like
TV show with it.
yeah, I don't know. I think they like throw ideas out there. Like my like when they kept referencing that past thing, I was or like between them, I
Mhm.
like I just assumed it was like somehow kind of like talking about the main character. What's her name again? Um Mina, right? Like
Mina.
her like the fact that she like thinks she's a bad person because of like she was essentially like responsible for her mom's death or whatever, and it's like
Mhm.
doing that whole thing like about how like her past doesn't define her and whatever, and I was like, yeah, I guess that makes sense, but I don't know if like I don't know how this really ultimately connects to what the whole purpose of the Watchers is, other than if it's trying to say that about her, which I feel like it could have, I don't know, done a little better if we knew anything about her.
No, you're
um
right. I feel like there's no thematic through line. I don't really know what the movie's trying to say.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, it like they kept getting like sprinkles of different things, and it was like,
yeah,
okay, like when are like I don't know, it never hit like a moment. I was like, oh, like I like
yeah,
understand
that's
why we were getting this information this whole time. Like it
that's what
was
I
like
really
the
felt about
small bits that
that's what I felt
didn't come
about the
together.
Love Island parody, because I was
Yeah,
like because I was like there has to be a reason why this is in here, right? So like as I'm watching the movie, I'm like trying to see if it has anything to say, and my guess was that it was going to be about kind because they're like watchers, and like
yeah,
my guess was going to be about how it's kind of like putting people under a microscope and like judging them for all their actions, like whether they're good or bad or whatever. And I'm like, but then the movie doesn't really like continue down that road, but
mhm,
like that's like that is an idea that's kind of there. Like it's like that's how I consume reality
yeah,
TV. Like I'm watching these people who I don't know, and on Love Island you fucking see 24 hours of their lives every day, and like it's pretty easy to judge people that way. The same way that like her whatever with her mom dying, but
mhm,
then it doesn't really like
yeah,
keep down that road. It just kind of like leaves it, just kind of like suggests it, and it does that
Hmm.
with a couple of things. I feel like I don't know that it really like picks one. I thought they were all interesting though. I just like wish it chose one.
I feel
that
like
was
it. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, go ahead, Owen.
oh, that was a very Shyamalan like thing that I kind of picked up on with just like the overall premise of and kind of what M Night's been working on the past like decade of the kind of idea of like surveillance and just like watching people. is like a very like modern
Yeah.
M Night thing. Like especially we have Old and then Traps coming out and even like in Glass and stuff and other movies. But just like the idea of first the watchers watching the people in like this little like TV screen, but also like with the reality TV show, and then the guy who like the professor or whatever recording all his things is like a very like M Night documentation like way to like video yourself. Like you have like literally James McAvoy's character in The Split like doing those like
Oh,
same exact fucking tapes.
yes, that's what I
Like,
was thinking of when I was watching.
that's
I
like
forgot.
straight
Yes,
from Split. So those were just like little like this is like very like an M Night idea that you could see like sprinkled in here.
the whole movie to me kind of felt like this book. Somebody like a producer or somebody approached M Night with this book and was like, "Hey, this seems like something that you would almost make. Like, do you want to adapt this?" And he was kind of like probably like not super interested, and then he like shifted it over to somebody else that maybe was more interested in the source material. That's kind of like the whole vibe I get because it is so very like on paper something that you would think you'd be interested in. Um
Yeah. Um, are there positives you guys want to? I mean, I don't know how Sydney felt about the movie as a whole. I saw Owen and Doug's rating, so I know you guys at least sort of liked the movie.
Yeah, I haven't logged it yet. I didn't even know what you got, or I think I saw someone's rating for it. But I mean, I was like you said, Kevin, like in the beginning, I was like, no, this is like pretty good. Like it seems pretty, it's a bit, some things are a little silly or like tropey. But I thought it was intense and I thought it established atmosphere really well. Like she's clearly
Yeah.
talented. I love Servant. She did a great job on
Yeah.
Servant. I honestly don't know if there's anything that I would say I like really loved about it.
Right.
Um, there was a lot that I was like, okay, cool. Like you know what you're doing, and I'm now excited to see what you do next. I'd say like the performances are good. I think Dakota Fanning is amazing, but they
yes.
none of them
There's been a
really
lot of Dakota Fanning hate online for this
really.
movie, and
Well,
for this movie specifically. And
I
I
have
think
a
I
I
take
think
thought
about
she
this,
was. I
yeah.
thought she was
I
good
thought
in
she
it.
was good. Yeah.
I thought she was
I
great.
think people it's another thing about like okay, The Happening. Oh, that's a good movie, but
It
Yeah.
is.
it's kind of my perspective about The Happening with God, who is it? Zoe
Wahlberg or
Deschanel.
Yeah.
Zoe
Um,
Deschanel. They're both
where
good
I'm
in that
like,
movie.
yes, where my thing was like people also were like, oh, Zoe Deschanel's so bad in this movie, and I'm like, bro, it's same thing with Dakota Fanning, where it's like, bro, these are two actresses that are just portraying a character that like you just don't want to see in a movie. You just don't want to see a character like this in your movie. It's not their performance, it's the
Yeah.
writing.
Yeah.
If anything, you have a problem with
Hmm.
like, but
Mhm.
people don't know what they're talking about. It's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Georgina Campbell, who's in Barbarian, I think she's fantastic. I
She's
wish
great.
she honestly, I was like, I wish we got more of her here because I just think she's
Yeah.
really great. But she's really good.
I
The
haven't
And
woman
then
who
seen
played
it.
Madeline was really good too, I thought.
yeah, she has like
Oh,
a really interesting
She's a weird
vibe.
face.
the dude that
Yeah.
plays
Yeah,
the dude
yeah,
that
you
plays
can say
Daniel
it.
has never been in another movie before.
Really? He was good
Yeah,
considering.
he's fun. I actually like I liked the movie more when he was in it. Like I was like, oh, they got rid of like him. He was fun. Uh, but
Yeah.
honestly, like I think I probably like this movie a little more than some of you, but I don't know, I was vibing with it like the whole way through. I was just like, yeah, this is like really solid. I know people have like online have been like, oh, this is boring. I don't really like I was like really into it. I think like the actual like horror elements worked for me. Like I think there was like some element of tension and I was like, I don't really know where this is going next. And I was interested in that. And yeah, I think it was cool. I think like I had some issues at the beginning just on like a technical level, like some of the shallow focus and the kind of how it was
Mhm.
lit. It was like just really dark at the beginning. But I was like thinking about as the movie went on, I was like, this is kind of. I thought of a bunch of movies when watching this, which is like not something like I normally do because sometimes like it's just not as direct and like referential. But I thought of like Skinamarink weirdly enough in the way that
Really?
like especially like when she goes in that the bunker or whatever and she's just looking into the darkness and just the use of the dark and just looking into this like thing, and then making it like an auditorial experience, I thought was an interesting, because initially I was like kind of rejecting how dark the movie was at times, but I actually did think it added to the horror element and the way that like we couldn't see these like little guys that were like in the woods, and I thought it worked. I thought there was, yeah, I don't know, there was a lot of interesting stuff that kept me engaged, in terms of like formal elements that
Yeah.
you don't normally are going to get from a bad horror movie, or b a directorial debut. So it was, I you know it was, I'm totally good with it. I was not really sure how I was going to feel with it. Like the trailer really wasn't like moving me. I wasn't crazy about it, but it was always something I was just going to check out, because of the relation to M Night. But I came away with it like, yeah, that was, I don't know, maybe not better than I was expecting, but not like, I don't know. I wasn't like totally like, oh, this is my favorite movie ever, but I was like, that is way positive than most movies that I see in the theater. Like, I don't know. There's a lot of bad movies that we go see, and this is not one of them. I'll
That's
say
what
that.
I thought. Like, there's so much horror is so oversaturated. Like, we get so many horror films every year that are just like not good. I mean, and this movie getting intense hate, I think, is really silly because we got like Night Swim this year. I don't
Yeah.
know if any of you liked Night
No, I
Swim.
mean this is
Sorry.
like no, that movie was awful.
But it's
Big
yeah.
night swim heads in the.
But it's well directed and it's not a terrible story. I mean, it's interesting. It's certainly a unique story. We get so many horror films that all feel the same and they rely on jump scares. And
Mhm.
Ishana has talked about how she thought really hard about like when to reveal the watchers and how to reveal them, and using Jaws as kind of like the pinnacle of
Yeah.
building that fear and
Yeah,
and
Barry speaking
considering.
Owen's language.
Yeah, well, it's true. I don't know if I thought it was at that level in this movie,
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
but you
That
could
was not a movie I
definitely.
thought of when watching
Yeah.
Owen, famous Jaws hater. No,
But
but like I
yeah.
I agree about that. Well, I think it's like that's such a hard thing to kind of do. Is like like I thought the movie was genuinely pretty creepy for most of the movie until they are revealed, which is just like
Sure.
that's like always an uphill battle. Like it's like when you have a movie like a horror movie like that where you're just like hiding the whatever is scary from us the entire time, then it has to really be scary when we see it, which is just not going to be the case for most people. And yeah, like once they're revealed, I'm like, okay, little bit
Yeah,
of tension lost for me. But like up
sure.
until then, I was like, this is like genuinely pretty creepy. Like there's like moments where I like when you can't see the and like the idea of like the I don't know what they call them in the movie, but like the little holes in the ground that they just like
The burrows.
yeah, the
Burrows.
burrows. There you go. And like they just go they go underground. Like that's like pretty creepy. Like I was like, this is actually like a little bit
Yeah.
That
unsettling.
reminded
And
me
then
of Super 8.
I haven't seen
Yeah,
Super
shout
8.
out J.J. Abrams, the goat.
Yeah.
That reminded me of The Village, because
Mm.
specifically when she goes down in there, the guy's like, "Don't step out of the light." It's very much like culty, like The Village is. Kind
Well, it
of.
was like that's that whole section too, the village. Like it was like very much like they're hiding, like the what was it, the bicycle and like the news and all these like little like things like technology and ways like they could help them are just being hidden. It's like who's hiding these
Mhm.
things? And obviously it's like the watchers, but like at that point you don't
Yeah.
know if they're real or not.
I did I did think the one thing I was gonna because I said that the third act wasn't like my favorite. It did feel like I don't know if you guys felt this way, like it was gonna end like 5 or 6 times probably, like starting from when they get on the
Yeah.
boat.
Well,
Like when they get on the
I
boat, you think it's over, and then they kind of do it again a number of times, and
they
I wish it
do
like cut out 15 minutes somewhere in
they
there.
do this thing where it's like they get on the bus and they're like the old lady is like uncomfortable on the bus, so she doesn't know how to like
Yeah.
ride a bus. And then, and like it's like she's never been on a bus before. And then like a song starts playing and it's like, oh, are we done here?
Yeah.
Because they like
I thought the
escape.
movie was gonna end right
They,
there.
they
You
Yeah.
know, that
escape.
was
They
fun.
escape.
Yeah.
They do like this weird like we're good, right? Like they like give each
Yeah.
other like a little like send off. Music starts playing, and then it's like, oh, we're still going.
Yeah.
And then they add that whole like I thought of like the Invisible Man, like the modern like Invisible Man movie, where like
Right.
the final act where they're in like the Georgina Campbell's like house, but it's not Georgina Campbell. Well, she goes to,
Right.
like, the college, and she, like, goes, like,
Yeah,
through his
there's like
stuff.
that's what I mean. There's a lot of stuff between them getting on the bus and them getting
Yeah.
to that house that is just like her
Yeah.
uncovering one detail after another, and it's a bit
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
time jumpy, like you said. And I'm just like, I wish like we just didn't need to do all this, and we could go from like them escaping to them in the house, because this is like now we're like doing too
Well, I
much.
Because
think
did she really ever need to find out that she was his wife? Or, like
no, I think you're right, Owen, that it is too the scope is too big. Like I think that Madeline being like a halfling is like this weird departure from the very
Yeah.
intimate story that just did not need to happen and overcomplicates things because then you have to create three different endings to like
Mhm.
tie up all these loose ends. And it just introduces this, yeah, this really big question of like humanity and their relationship with like these
Yeah.
mystical beasts or whatever, when it should have really, I think that like a good screenplay would have had Dakota Fanning getting out because she reaches this place with herself where she is no
Yeah.
longer judging herself for
Less
what
about the
she.
Watchers and the characters that are being affected by the Watchers.
Yeah, exactly. And I also don't like, I don't know if this is like insensitive, but I don't like the trope of like I blame myself for something I did 15 years ago when I was like
As a kid,
6.
as a little
I'm
kid?
like, don't we
Yeah,
all
grow
know
up.
in society by now
Also
that it's like not, and why are you like abandoning your sibling who clearly doesn't even blame
Yeah.
you?
Yeah.
Also, did she move to another country like
Just
as a
went to
result? Like she
Ireland
like
just to like,
yeah, like she moves to Ireland because it's
What
that.
the fuck? What is the bird? What's the point of the bird?
because
Oh,
it mimics.
I
the
guess.
bird's her friend, Owen. Did you watch the movie, you dumbass?
No, but I was like, why?
You mean like
Why?
as a
She
symbol?
names him Darwin. She names him
But she's like carrying this bird around,
She
and
really took.
well, she doesn't like she's like going down. She's like, give me the bird, and she like
Give me the
going
bird.
down this like hole with the bird. I was like, this is silly.
And then he leads them out of the forest
Right.
at the end. But why did
She
she?
like lets it go and then it
Well, because
it's
Yeah,
you
like
have to
their
follow
guide.
the birds to get out of the forest or you'll get
Right.
yeah. He
lost,
was like,
right?
follow the
Yeah.
birds.
It's all very silly.
But I
It's
liked it.
silly. But it's not good. So, like it's like sometimes M Night movies are silly and like
Yeah.
It's just
the way
there's
that
just
they're like also good.
it's kind of drowning in the details. The movie kind of
Yeah.
by the end of the movie, you're like drowning in details where you're like,
Mhm.
oh,
Yeah.
well, that's what I
Yeah.
mean
Like
when I'm like towards the when they're escaping and Madeline stops and is like, oh, this must have been the door
Yeah. It's
to the
like, what the
chamber
fuck?
where they trapped
We
all of
gotta
the
go. We
watchers.
gotta go.
And it's like, where did
I
she?
Yeah.
liked that part. I also thought the artwork looked like the artwork in Lady in the Water with like the sketches of
Yeah.
like the
Well,
old
there's a
like
scene in I think it's when she's in like the professor's like place, and like it's like looking at like
There's
things,
a
and I was
big
like, this is
tapestry.
yeah, this
Like,
is like
oh
this is
right.
like
oh
the
yeah.
opening of Lady in the Water, where like the little like doodles.
Mhm.
But yeah, I kept thinking of Lady in the Water, and especially like as we're talking about like it just being way too big, and I think of Lady in the Water being like this like kind of like it's like a big like fantasy movie, but it never really plays all of its cards. It kind of like hides this like it's like there's a big world that exists in this world like film, but it never really goes there because it's not like that's not the point of the movie. Like it's
Right.
really about something else. Whereas this movie seems like way too invested in like we talked about like the lore of like this universe. Whereas Lady in the Water, like it works because it's really not. It's like there's all these like creatures and stuff, and we understand the kind of world enough to like get the story, but it's very small scale. Like we're at like the what is that? I forget. It's like a
It's like a little
oh,
apartment,
oh
a
yeah,
condo
yeah, exactly.
complex, yeah.
So we never really leave that place, and we kind of it's a so small scale character driven film. Whereas this film, again, it feels like we're setting up like a cinematic universe at times, and it's like okay, like just calm down, like it's it should be just a little like horror movie. I don't know
well, also because it's a book, right? I'm sure that there's so many details in the
in
book
the book, yeah,
that people who like the book probably really enjoy because it's like,
Yeah.
oh, I'm learning so much about this world that this guy's made.
yeah,
But in the
it
thing about that is like books like that turn into that turn
Yeah,
into
the
TV shows.
Yeah, it feels like a movie, like really trying to adapt every detail of a book, which is
Yeah.
like not what you do when you adapt a book.
Yeah, it makes sense for a young filmmaker to do something like that. That seems like a
Yeah.
debut, maybe not
Yeah, it's like a
mistake,
problem.
but
It's
just
like a
like
problem you have because you're like scared to leave out details. Because like
yeah, and
when you're
that's
trying to
why
adapt
like it's
something, you
like
think it all makes sense.
yeah, again, I don't think this is like the best movie ever, but like a lot of the mistakes are like yeah, these are just like debut feature mistakes. It just like
Yeah.
there's enough promise to be like, "Oh, I will be seated the next time she makes a film," and like I don't falter for doing these things at like 23 or whatever. Like it's
Yeah,
like
Yeah.
she is our age. That's
Yeah,
yeah,
she's
it's
like
That's
like
fucked
crazy.
up.
yeah.
That's fucked up.
That's really fucked up.
but I
None
well, I
of
was
our dads are famous directors.
yeah, that's what
So.
well, I was thinking about this like idea, especially with it being M Night, and it's like there's obvious like there's no way you would be making this movie if your dad wasn't M Night, but it's
Yeah.
like there's so much baggage that comes with that name that it's so tough to like be because she's getting like hate no matter what from like
Yeah.
people because they don't like her dad's movies, and it's a tough position to be in where it's like that's the reason you're kind of obviously she's put in all this work, but there's a level of like help that she's gotten from being a Shyamalan, but there's also all this like negative kind of stuff that's thrown into it, so it's a really interesting place to be as a it's a very unique position because this is not, again, like I said at the beginning, this is not how every director we talk about on here is kind of positioned in like the landscape of what we're kind of working with here.
Yeah.
I wonder if she's interested in writing original scripts because I would like to see what she's got going on in her
Yeah,
brain.
I would
Yeah.
assume
Yeah.
so, since she wrote like 10 of those episodes, and it seems, especially like adapting a book, it's like very storytelling seems like a forefront here.
But with the TV show though, you're
No, I
adapting
know,
the
I know.
outline that M Night has. Like
Exactly.
Yeah,
And
but
it's
it's
like
still
everyone's over your shoulder the whole
yeah,
time.
sure. Yeah, I don't know. It's interesting. It'd be interesting to see where she goes next. 'Cause again, this is like I mean, this is like a $30 million movie. This is like a big
Was
yeah,
it?
it's a big
big-
deal. Yeah,
Damn.
like to
big movie.
handle
To be
that
a
is
Nepo baby.
yeah, imagine, right? I
That's crazy.
no, I know.
Let's
I
see.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'll be
I
excited.
I do
Yeah.
wonder if like M Night was like there on set a lot of the time, or if he
Yeah,
was kind of
Yeah.
doing his own stuff.
No,
I mean, he was
he's like a big producer, and
he's
he's
a
also
producer on it.
yeah,
It's
and he's also like out there. He was on set for sure. He was on set.
Yeah.
Okay.
yeah, and
Well,
I'm sure like any help she needed, he would like guide her.
Right.
Which I don't know. It seems there's a like part of me that's like that's like a good thing, but also it's like maybe you want to like you know veer off
Right.
and
not be like in his
I don't know.
shadow.
It's an
Yeah.
interesting like it's a unique kind of thing.
Well, that's why an original script would be exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it is interesting that a lot of like children. I guess it doesn't apply to like Sophia Coppola, like Brandon Cronenberg. Who you guys don't like him, or someone doesn't like him?
I like Brandon
I
Cronenberg.
think he's fine. I mean, I just watched
I
that
think
one
Possessor
movie.
rocks.
I
Yeah,
think Possessed is a
I
great
haven't seen
movie.
that one.
I
Okay,
think
I didn't
Infinity
like
Pool is a good
Infinity.
movie.
I
Infinity
liked
Pool is
Infinity
so
Pool. I
bad,
didn't think
bro.
I didn't think it was great, but he feels so much like his dad in the way that he makes movies.
In like a bad way.
Well,
Like in like
it is.
a
It's hard, like
it's
because
it
yeah. Go ahead.
no, it's just like I don't it's weird. I don't know. It's like I'm not sure about him in like a weird way. Like it's
Yeah, he's not as talented as
no, I know. It's like
David Cronenberg.
Well,
I
that's
mean,
what's weird when you're like the child
attempting
of.
to do what he's doing and just being worse.
but yeah, but I don't think that he's not like ripping. Possessor is not a David Cronenberg movie. It's like he's just interested in like similar things.
There's also
Which
just
makes
like a level.
sense.
It's so
Yeah.
interesting with art as well because it's like for like everybody, your relationship to your parents is always like, I don't want to do this, this, and this the way my parents did it, and then you don't
Yeah,
realize that you're
and these
becoming your
guys keep
parent.
doing
Yeah.
these
So it's like
things.
as an artist, you're probably if your parents are
Yeah.
artists, you're probably doing stuff that you don't even realize that you've just learned from your parents
Well,
because
because
sure.
it's
they're
not just
artists.
it's not just watching their movies. It's literally being raised
Yeah.
by someone who sees the world like
Exactly.
that and is
Yeah,
really
exactly.
preoccupied with like whatever they're always thinking about. But it almost is like kind of a curse to be a nepo baby,
Yeah.
because your parent, if they weren't, well, it's not. It's obviously it's not
I think that
in
Maya
many
Hawke
ways.
is also cursed with being in Wes Anderson movies.
I liked her quote when she said, like, I'm okay with not deserving it and doing it anyways. Not a curse, but like your parent got there oftentimes just out of sheer talent, because they were like
Yeah.
this prodigal director or whatever, and you might straight up not be as good as them, and your whole life you're going to be called like you say that people are going to say you're just imitating them, and living in their shadow or whatever. But then you also get to have a career as a director, which is not the worst thing in the world.
$30 million debut.
Yeah,
which is honestly, like, I'm thinking about like where should she go next. I think it'd be smarter to even go less budget, like just a smaller scale film. I think I don't know. Servant's done, or what's the deal with Servant?
Servant's done, right?
Is it a limited series?
It was going on for a long time.
Because I think
Did you say it's
I
a
was
limited series?
I haven't watched it.
That TV show is like 4 seasons.
I haven't watched it, dude.
I was just thinking about the fact that like M Night making that show is like the smartest thing he's ever done. To just have like this show where his daughter could write music for it, and his other daughter could direct and write shows.
She's such
for
a girl dad.
He's just like building like his like daughter's careers in like a lab and while making this show, and he's also just getting reps for himself while he's able to direct and write some stuff. So it kind of was like a everyone wins situation where we can make this show, and the way that shows work is like, especially with that, it's like, it's not really like, it's people are going to hear about it, people are going to talk about it, but it's not really on your like record in a way.
On Apple TV Plus, nobody has that.
Exactly.
I saw like a streaming show today
like
that's number one
makes
in the world.
them better. It makes them better for sure. It's a way to kind of like, yeah.
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 Directed episodes of that TV show.
Yeah, no, a lot of people they kind of
Of Servant?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
They brought in a lot of talent.
Oh, crazy.
Emily was just like, "Oh, I like you. Come direct one of my episodes."
Yeah.
Which is really cool.
Yeah, it's very good. Well, I didn't finish it, but very good.
She directed episodes of it after Titan, I think.
Oh, wow.
It's interesting.
That's very cool.
You win the Palme d'Or, and then you work on a TV show.
And then you go do Servant.
Yeah, that's how it works.
Anything else you guys want to include about The Watchers?
It's good.
Maybe.
It was good.
Yeah, it's good.
It was okay.
Yeah, and that is good. Okay,
I'm excited for Trap. That's my thoughts on The
Watchers. Oh
yeah.
my god, that Trap trailer played before The Watchers, bro. That movie looks so good. Oh my gosh.
It does look good. I'm so curious about. I have heard theories about, because I feel like there will be some sort of twist.
Oh, for sure. Something's going on. That trailer is so revealing. Something's happening.
Exactly. It's going straight at you. It's like, here is what is happening. And it's like, okay, that can't be exactly what's happening.
Some people say that the guy on his phone is the real killer. And I thought that was stupid.
I don't know about that one.
I saw people saying that there would be like multiple killers, and that he's like a different killer than the killer that they're trying to go after. Like Josh Hartnett is just like a different killer, but not the one that they're targeting.
Yeah, one of the big ideas is like he's like just killing bad people, or like he's like,
so that's what I was thinking,
or he's looking to kill the butcher or something. Like he's like a kind of anti-hero kind of guy who's like going around killing killers or something.
M. Night is not making a movie about a girl dad that's also a really bad person.
Killing people. Like, he has like no redeemable qualities, and he's just like the most evil guy ever.
It would be funny if he is like a super evil guy that's also just like a really good dad, though. That would be very.
But that is in ways, that is the M. Night hero. It's just a girl dad who loves his daughter.
Yeah, this one. When I watched that trailer, I'm like, this one's gonna make me cry. Like,
bro, it's gonna be the movie of the fucking summer, dude.
I know. I'm gonna.
I know someone who saw it.
Oh wow!
What are you talking about?
Yeah, I know. This guy I know, who I won't dox, goes to a lot of like test screenings. I don't know how. maybe it's like where he lives or something. I would not say he's like the person I would go to for M. Night opinions.
Yeah,
Right.
So I didn't really get any. Well, also they signed an NDA, so I didn't really get any information about it. But
Oh, yeah.
people have seen it.
I've seen it.
It exists.
So it exists. It's real.
The movie
We
is
had a
real.
we had a
It's
friend that
being
went to a test
shown.
screening, and he broke
Oh,
his
yeah?
NDA for us. Not of Trap, not for Trap, for a different
Oh,
movie.
not for Trap.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, I'm excited. I
Just
just
bringing
don't.
that up.
I don't know if I.
It's cool. I don't know.
Yeah, we
That's
know
cool.
people who break
Yeah.
NDAs.
Is that your most anticipated movie of the summer, Sydney? Because I imagine it is for Owen and
It has.
Doug.
Yes, I'd say like
I mean,
Furiosa
especially in the
was big.
summer.
Of the summer, yeah.
Oh,
Listeners
sure.
are
I mean,
big,
for the
but
rest of the year is a bigger question, I guess. But
Trap more so. Yeah, is Megalopolis above Trap for you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It kind of has to be because it's so grand. But you know, 'cause, like,
Megalopolis,
this is
we
just
don't even know how the fuck that movie's gonna screen in public.
exactly.
You know, it's
That's
like,
the
what
thing,
are we
is this
talking about?
movie's-
Like,
You know, we've gotten M. Night movies like the past. We're on a string of M. Night movies here, and these
Yeah.
are really
a
great.
string of good ones.
Exactly, that's the thing. It's
Yeah.
like I kind of know this movie's gonna rock. The Megalopolis is more of a question mark, but it's more of like a big box of question marks. So that's kind of more enticing. It will be the event of the year, but I can see Trap being the best movie of the year for sure.
Really? I don't think I'm ready for M. Night discourse to happen again.
yeah,
It's like the only downside.
This is every day, you know. I don't know.
I feel like
It happens on the off season,
Yeah, I
in
feel like Trap
season.
Discourse would be
The
particularly
day of the Super
annoying.
Bowl, I don't know.
No, I'm logging
I
on
just-
to call people racist. I don't like the movie.
Yeah, I just feel like Trap Discourse is going
I'm
to be
ready.
particularly annoying because it seems like people who don't like M. Night Shyamalan are excited for it. So when they watch
It's a
it
great
and
trailer.
are let down,
It
then
is a
it's
good
gonna
show.
be
They were already
even
talking about,
more
oh, they don't
annoying.
have concerts in the daytime. Like they're already.
Yeah, what are we?
I know, what
the fuck?
They were already pulling out
It's
excuses.
such a weird detail to pay attention to. Like, why did you even?
But yeah,
Um,
it also just I love the visual style. It's like
Oh, yeah.
it's a
Bhakti
little bit
Prom
different than
save.
yeah.
It's the year of
Bro,
Bhakti
coming off
Prom.
the
He's great.
challengers? Oh my
Yeah.
god.
yeah.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
It's the year. It's his year. Yeah.
Yeah.
Josh Hartnett. I'm excited. Like the cast is like very small, but we also like have like I think it's Allison Pill something with a P. She's in Scott Pilgrim, and she's in this.
Oh, I know
and
who you're talking about.
Kid Cudi's in this, and some other
Really?
person's in this.
Yeah,
But like
Kid Cudi's.
we don't really
Oh.
know their role because the trailer like shows nothing. So like it could be like Kid Cudi could just be like a like he could play like the opener or like we have no idea. Or he could be like a serial killer. Like it's like I don't
Yeah.
know. But
It's
the
sick, yeah.
cast is very.
Killer would be crazy.
Imagine if he's the butcher. But like we just don't know. Like because it's really just Josh Hartnett and his daughter, and then that lady that I'm forgetting her name. That they show like when the like things are flashing, she's like looking at the camera.
Oh. The old lady?
The old lady that was in Parent Trap, the original Parent Trap movie.
Haley Mills?
Haley Mills.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Haley Mills, who was in the original Parent Trap, now is in Trap, and there's a moment in the trailer where she like stares at the camera, and who knows what her deal is. But like there's a lot of
I
movie
bet
we
she's
haven't
the
seen.
killer.
Yeah, she's the
With
butcher.
the way old ladies are going.
Exactly. Matt, like how many old ladies are gonna be? She's butchering
Does
up
he hate old ladies? Look at like
The Visit.
The Visit.
He probably thinks they're
I
scary.
think old
Yeah.
They
people
are.
Old
commonly,
white
like,
ladies?
pretty
They are.
creepy to
They
most
are.
people. Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah, they kind of are.
I'm for it.
I second that one.
I second the fact that that is the scariest thing in cinema.
Yeah. Okay, we can wrap up there if we want. We're gonna go to Doug's interview, but first I want to thank Sydney for joining us and remind everybody to follow Sydney at all of the links that will be in the episode description.
Well, as it happens, I am currently storyboard. Well, sorry, hang on. Yeah, over here. Over here. I'm spending my Saturdays storyboarding because I have a rich and fulfilling life.
Well, first off, congratulations on Furiosa. What a remarkable achievement on obviously every level of production.
Thank you.
Is your first credit or the first time you storyboarded for like a film, was it actually Dark City, the cult science fiction
Mm-hmm.
film directed by Alex Porriez? Um,
Chorus, yes.
how did you come across that opportunity, and how did you end up doing that for that film?
Right. Fun story. It's not short. Sorry in
Okay.
advance. So, background. Uh, I grew up on a small island in the middle of the South Pacific where we did not have television or cinemas. So I didn't watch television or films, um, except on the rare occasions where we get off the island. This is Norfolk Island out in the Pacific. Um, I get to watch films or television on incredibly rare events where we get off island and go on a holiday, which I think we did twice. From memory, once to New Zealand and once to Australia. So I didn't watch my first film until I was about 11.
Oh wow.
And my first complete film, I should say, until I was about 11. And I didn't really watch television in any habitual way until I came to Australia to finish off my schooling in 1985. Sorry, I'm dating myself. Yes. I had no filmic background. However, I love to draw. That's one of the things I love to do on the island because we had nothing else to do other than go out and play sports. I wasn't terribly sporty, or run around and make up things. And I used to love telling stories. I used to make up things. I discovered Asterix books and Tintin books at quite a young age, about 7, and I thought they were fantastic. And so I started doing my own comic books, and I didn't know there were superhero comic books or stuff like that until I was much older,
Oh
because
wow.
we didn't get those either.
Okay.
Anyway, so I discovered the comic books, like superheroes and stuff, when I was about 15 when I went to school in Australia. I promise this is getting us somewhere. Anyway, so came to school, finished off year 11 and 12 in Adelaide, of all places, in the middle of Australia. Started reading comic books, started doing my own stuff, finished school, and decided, hang on, very importantly, failed art.
Okay.
I failed art. The teacher I had really, 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 really didn't like what I did. She thought comic books are rubbish, and she thought anything that involved anything to do with drawing with lines and stuff like that was rubbish, and certainly stuff involving monsters and aliens and robots and stuff like that was all rubbish. So she hated everything I did, and I didn't particularly enjoy doing still lifes of eggs and onions in oil paints or pastels. So I failed year 11 art. I wasn't able to do it in year 12, and so therefore, as a result of which, I couldn't go on and do further studies in art. So I went to university instead and did a PhD in genetics. God knows why. Don't ask me.
Wow.
I don't know why. But while I was at university, I discovered the university newspaper um, had a comic strip in it, and the comic strip was dreadful. And I thought, I think I could do better than that. And so I bullied a friend of mine who also liked drawing, and we ended up doing a strip for the university newspaper. That went down pretty well. And from that, we decided we would start self-publishing and writing, drawing, and self-publishing our own comic books in Australia, which we did. And we sold them in news agencies around the country and in comic stores and stuff like that. And they did all right. We didn't lose any money, which is pretty extraordinary for an Australian comic. But this is back in the 90s, so self-publishing, all sort of stuff. And we did a couple of comic books for a band called TISM, or This Is Serious Mum, who's an underground Australian band. I don't know if you know them.
Yes. Yep.
Yes, excellent. Well, they were fun. We had a lot of fun with them. But the second comic book was written by the members of TISM, or two of the members of TISM, and they wanted to portray it as a anti-drug comic book, cunningly disguised as a pro drug comic book. And so it had a little speech bubble in the middle of it, which was a member of TISM holding up a syringe filled with heroin and saying, "Take drugs, kids, did me no harm," then inject himself in the back of the throat with heroin and having a horrible time. However, you needed to turn over the page in order to actually see that. The powers that be didn't get past that page. They just went, so we were banned immediately, and comic books gone. It just so happened that the aforementioned, you mentioned Alex Proyas, was a fan of TISM.
Okay.
And I told you this is getting somewhere. And he had just broken his previous storyboard artist and needed a new one. And he had a habit of finding comic book artists and using them because, as he figured, they don't know the rules. And they can make up shit which no one else would do because they're stupid. Inexperienced. So I got run up literally the same week as we got banned, and got asked whether I would like to come up to Sydney. I was in Melbourne at the time. Come up to Sydney and storyboard a film. And to wit, I should also point out, getting back to the fact that I'd grown up on Norfolk Island where there was no television or films, I hadn't ever really got a film watching or television watching habit. So I watched very little television, and I'd literally only seen probably about 40 films, and I was about 26 at the time. So I wasn't really film literate, but I went, okay, well, I don't know anything about films. I don't even know what storyboarding is. I didn't know anyone did storyboarding. But I suppose I'll give it a go. So I came up to Sydney and worked on Dark City and made all the mistakes. Every mistake you can make as a storyboard artist in film, I made them all, and some others no one else ever thought of making. And it was interesting. It was definitely the deep end because Alex Proyas was the sort of director who just goes, he'd always have a cigar in his mouth and he'd chew it and he'd go, here, take this script. No notes, go away and do it. And so I was thrown to the deep end. It was just like, shit, okay, I don't even know what I'm doing. And so I literally had, as reference, this is in the 90s, pre-internet, I literally had as a reference about 16 pages of David Lowery's storyboards from Jurassic Park. At the back of the making of Jurassic Park, there's a 16-page supplement of his storyboards, and that's what I had as reference on how to storyboard. So I didn't know what the hell I was doing. And I would argue at the end of 6 months of working at the film, I still didn't know what the hell I was doing. But anyway, there you go. Still here. I don't know. Haven't left yet.
When you first started and you were talking about how you didn't watch films growing up, it reminded me of kind of like Werner Herzog, who's like one of the great documentary filmmakers. Werner Herzog's kind of journey where he said that he didn't watch his first movie until he was 19, and when he turned 19, he acquired a camera after watching a movie and just started making his own movies. And that is it's interesting how that happens where you let's say you watch in your mid-20s had only seen 40 films. Now you were storyboarding like a big production. Dark City is not like a small movie.
No. I'm enjoying the fact you've actually stuck me in the same sense as Werner Herzog, who has feelings about storyboarding, by the way, which is to say,
really?
He doesn't like storyboarding.
Okay.
As he said himself, storyboarding is the refuge. Is it something like the refuge of the cowards? Of the coward?
That tracks.
Something along those lines. Yeah. Which is
that makes sense with his kind of filmmaking philosophy. That he
Sorry,
wouldn't necessarily be into planning
sh-
like that.
I should have tried to do his voice, but I'd probably do a really crap job anyway, so I won't. Yes.
No,
So
yeah, no, that's interesting. So, so you do you how do you consume movies now? Do you watch a lot of film now, or do you still kind of view it from a filmmaking perspective instead of maybe being a big fan of going to the cinema and watching lots of films regularly?
I mean,
Uh,
I must admit, I still don't quite have that habit of watching hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of films. I've watched a lot more films,
right.
thank God. I'm working in the film industry. You kind of hope I would at some stage or another. So no. I mean, I sat down and watched, what was it, Curse of the Demon? Curse of the Demon? Yeah, Curse of the Demon last night. That lovely Jacques Tourneur film. As I say, you kind of got to do it. And it also, when you work with someone like George Miller, it always really pays to actually have a reasonable degree of film watching experience to draw upon, because as he says, you can always tell the difference between someone who's watched hundreds of films as opposed to someone who's watched thousands of films.
Of course.
So, and you don't want to be that person who's watched hundreds of films around George, because he'll go, you anyway. So yes.
How did your working relationship with George Miller start?
I literally went straight from storyboarding Dark City and just going, oh, that was kind of nice, and I got paid some money, and paid more money than I ever got paid in my life, and just going, okay, well, I guess that's for me. That's it for me with storyboarding and filming. But George was assembling a small cadre of storyboard artists for Babe 2. I think he knew he needed to get through a big chunk. The whole thing needed to be storyboarded. This is back in late '96, and he wasn't available to sit down and go through it himself. So he was kind of hoping his team of storyboard artists could do it, and then he would be able to look at it later once he'd finished the thing he was on at the time. So yeah. Anyway,
That's Babe 2 is another kind of triumph of in filmmaking, because Miller is such a genius. Watching Babe 2 now, and revisiting it now, you kind of wonder like how are any of these images kind of created? So is it so I'm assuming that like after Babe 2, you just grew a working relationship with that team that was working with George Miller, and then that kind of carried over to some of his next films as they were popping up.
Yep, kind of, yes.
Okay.
I mean, went from I think I finished on Babe 2 in March '98, and I went off and did a few fairly interesting films, most of which you'll never have heard of, and deservedly so. But one of them was Mission Impossible 2, which was very strange. It was a very strange.
What,
It was
yeah,
a weird
well, it was
experience.
shot in Australia, right?
Yes, at Fox Studios, before Fox, what's now Disney Studios. Before the studios in Sydney were the studios, they were literally building it around us while we were working on it. Very strange film experience. That was an experience where the storyboards were there not to inform the process of filmmaking, more to fool the producer, i.e. Tom Cruise, into thinking that that's what John Woo was going to do on the day, whereas John Woo was going to go and do something totally different.
Really?
Literally, I think that's what was going on. It's just like, oh, you storyboard this, and we'll show Tom, and then on the day we shoot someone totally different. Sorry, that's my really bad John Woo. It was terrible.
That's fine.
That's why I didn't do Werner Herzog. Anyway, so yes, strange experience.
No, that's really interesting. Yeah, listen, I love all of the Mission Impossible films quite a bit, and I'm a big fan of both John Woo and Tom Cruise. Mission Impossible. Oh gosh, Mission Impossible 2 is like quite the relic though now, especially when you compare it to all of the other Mission Impossible films that have come out since, and how they're so so polished.
It's the bad '90s action version.
Yeah, well, but that's that's what like John Woo did in America though, was that kind of thing. It's interesting.
Yeah, it's dated, as you say. We did actually sit down and watch all the Mission Impossible films about 6 months ago, and yeah, that one It's like pulling teeth. It's like, oh God, how long have we got to go? Oh no. Anyway, yes. So yes, as I am fond of saying, because I like dad jokes, I have done a number of number twos. And that was one of them.
When did you start working on the storyboards for Fury Road? Like, how early into the development were you brought in to do drawings for that film?
So the very, very, very early development work on that was done while we were working on Babe 2. So
Wow.
there was 4 of us storyboard artists sitting upstairs in the old theatre that George had as his offices. We're up there working on storyboards and working on talking pigs, and bloody talking ducks and dogs and apes and stuff like that. Downstairs is Brendan McCarthy, a writer, and I can't remember his name, Eric Blake or something like that, and Norma Morrisseau. And they were all in a room downstairs which became known as the Mad Max room. And they were working on early pre-concept ideas of what Fury Road could be, or what Mad Max 4 could be at the time. It wasn't called
Right.
Fury Road at the stage. No one knew what it was called. And they spent, probably about 6 months doing that. So we storyboarders would walk downstairs past the Mad Max room. We'd all try to look in through the doors and see what was going on. And it was like, oh, the cool kids are playing in there. Anyway, and then once George started shooting Babe 2, that got shut down because George was going to be too busy to actually spend any time looking at that stuff. So Brendan and Norma, and I think the writer had gone some time before that. Brendan and Norma, shut up the doors, and they left and went their separate ways. And then at the end of my tenure on Babe 2, I went off and did these other number 2 films. And I started hearing rumours that Mad Max was starting again while I was doing the number 2 films. Anyway, and then I got called by Bill Miller, George's younger brother. He called me up and asked me whether I'd like to come in and talk to them about coming on to do Happy Feet. So this is November 1999 now. So I think I was just finishing up on a terrible film called Red Planet, which was a terrible experience, not much fun at all. And a terrible film, which wasn't much fun at all. So there you go. And I was very ready to get the hell out of there. So I went, yes, please. And while quietly thinking at the same time, oh God, another talking animal film. I'm going to be the talking animal film guy. Oh well, it's not Red Planet. And it's not a number 2. So there you go. Good. And it's George. Knocked on Bill's office, and Bill went, oh yeah, nice to see you. Well, good. Okay, look, George is ready to talk to you up in the Mad Max room. It was like, Mad Max room? Mm-hmm. I get to see something. So I wandered up the steps and wandered into the room, and I walked into this big room. It's this big oval room surrounded by glass windows, and there was all these pictures up on the wall of these fucking insane cars, some of which I recognised from when Brendan McCarthy was there before. Insane vehicles and some nuts characters and stuff like that. And then a series of corkboards. And on the first one was probably about a couple of hundred storyboards. And then on a big whiteboard in the middle of the room was the words Fury Road written in that typeface that you've seen used everywhere now. And I was like,
no, that's so awesome.
This is like the holy grail. Oh my God. Oh, well, they are working on Fury Road. Oh, well, at least you'll be in the same building working on it as those guys while I'm doing Happy Feet. Talking penguins, God. Anyway, so I'm going to enjoy while I'm here now. And then George walked in and went, "Oh, hi, Mark. Yeah, nice to see you. So, when can you start on this?" And I was like, "Sorry." And he went, "Oh, yeah. No. When can you start on Mad Max? I was just like, now? He went, oh, good. Okay. Oh well, yeah. Let me tell you about it. And so I started working on Mad Max, and to this day, I'm still not entirely sure whether that's what the plan was, and it was a way of getting me into the building without anybody knowing that I was coming to work on Mad Max, so therefore I wouldn't tell anybody.
Right.
Not that I would have anyway. Or whether George just didn't realise that I was asked to come in and do Happy Feet, and that Bill Miller's been very cross with him ever since because I got pinched to do Fury Road for the next 2 years. Anyway, there you go. So 1999, in the year 1999 November, I started working on Fury Road. Storyboarding had already started. They'd kind of got to about the early parts of the buzzard chase. So that's the bits they'd done. And I was on it until November 2001 in the storyboarding capacity. So it was interesting.
No, that is really interesting. It's so I mean, of course, like the production of Fury Road on all levels has been kind of like documented into the history books. One of the most, it's like an Apocalypse Now level in terms of like how legendary it is. And part of that is that he started working on it 20 years before they started shooting it.
Yep.
How is it storyboarding with George Miller compared to storyboarding for some other filmmakers in Hollywood? Is it true that George Miller starts with a storyboard before he has a finished script?
No, George.
Okay.
George does every film differently.
Okay.
George always has a different method. I mean, I think he likes to do it because it makes it interesting. There's new challenges of that, and he'll use the tools he has at his disposal in different ways in reaction to the nature of the story he has. So, Fury Road, it's an action piece. Writing action is really boring and also really hard and doesn't actually really do a great job because, that's why you storyboard action sequences, because there's so much more going on than you can write. And so he realised very early in the piece, as it's basically a balls-to-the-wall action film for 2 hours, where story is told by action, that the whole thing needed to be storyboarded. And so what he had done with Brendan McCarthy, he had sat down and they had nutted out a basic story outline that was like maybe, I suppose, roughly around about 70 to 80% of what the film ended up being. And they'd done a written document, which is quite sizable. Wasn't a script. There was obviously bits here and there with dialogue and stuff chucked in and stuff like that. But it was a working document. It was a story outline. And then once that was done, George has a very, very, very good memory, but he's also got a visual memory. So then George just didn't use it anymore. He'd just sit down and he would sit with us. Now at the beginning, it was 3 of us, or 4 of us with George. It was myself, Brendan McCarthy, Peter Pound, who's an exceptional artist and has been doing storyboards for many years. He used to be, interestingly, he was the storyboard artist that I replaced on Dark City, and then I ended up working with him on Babe 2 and then on Mad Max. So it was Peter, Brendan, myself, and George, and we would literally all work in the room together. The idea was all the storyboards had to look they were drawn by a single person. So the idea of stylistic flow and continuity of design and everything all the way through. So instead of actually breaking up the film into sequences and saying, you do that, you do that, you do that, we all worked on the same sequences, and we would talk. We'd spend the first part of the day talking about what the shots are going to be. Brendan would do very quick scribbles on a whiteboard while George sat there, and we'd all kind of put it in something. And then we would then divvy up the idea of what the scribbles might be, and then draw them up into proper storyboards. And we would essentially take the boards from the day and split it up between us. So Peter and I would sit there and actually draw one contiguous sequence, which you don't do. No one does it that way, but
Right.
that's how we did Fury Road. And then towards the end of the second act, which was back in, gosh, I don't know, very early 2000, I think Peter and Brendan both left to go and focus on other things, and then it was just me, and then I was able to work with George one-on-one, and George knew exactly what he wanted. I mean, he was very, very clear in his brain about how it worked. He could see the film in his head, and as I said, George has got a visual memory, and he'd be very, very, very sure about what he wanted. Having said that, every film was different. So, like on then,
Right.
I went straight from Mad Max to Happy
Wave
Feet.
two? Oh, Happy Feet.
Happy
Sorry,
Feet.
Happy Feet. Happy Feet.
And for that film, I had 2 conversations with George in the 6 months that I storyboarded that film.
Interesting.
And that was literally take the script, you go away and do it. Here's what I'm thinking. Off you go. And I think he asked me to redraw one frame. So yeah, I mean, George does everything in different ways. And then 20 years later, we're doing 20 years later. Gosh, even longer. When we're doing Furiosa, it's different again. George is using different tools, and storyboards are still there, but storyboards are now supporting something else. They're not the be all and end all, but the way we did Fury Road was a very, very, very different way of storyboarding. Whereas on most films, to get to other filmmakers, sorry, I'm just picking up something I've dropped on the floor. Most other films, most other directors I've worked on tend to actually be, particularly on Marvel films, which are fun to work on and their own challenges, and they're as valid an art cinematic form as anything else. But with those, it is literally here, go away and do that sequence. No, we can't tell you much about the other stuff.
Right.
And you work in isolation, working on those sequences, and then they take those storyboards as an offering, and then they cherry pick what works and try and blend it in with stuff that's done in isolation by other people.
Okay.
So you don't have sequences that talk to each other, and so it's a very different way of filmmaking again.
That was one of the questions I was going to ask you, because such a big part of your filmography is in the MCU, and I was going to ask you how it is working in that kind of environment, because there's like a lot of like conversation about how the hierarchy of the filmmaking and the among the production there is different than maybe a lot of other films, with how much control like a individual director or an individual writer has over the creative outcome of the film, and how working on something like that is.
I mean, I think the point being is when you're making the film, when you're in pre-production, I mean, obviously, the powers that be, the Kevin Feige's of the world, are going to be sitting there and looking at what's going on and saying, how about this, how about that, blah, blah, blah. But they allow the creative teams to get on with it and work with it. But inherent in the process is an understanding that at some stage or another during the post-production, they're going to be looking at what you've done and what the director offers up as their cut, and go, how does that work with everything else we're putting together? And certainly, I've been working with in the MCU since 2016, I think. 2016, I've been doing a fair bit of stuff there, and I think I've been working in the period where they got smashed by having to start doing stuff for Disney Plus and things like that. So I think the ability to focus on just the films was really, really, really hurt by the need, by the drive from the mother studio to produce product, which inherently stretched the creative process thin. And so, I worked on Black Panther. Now, I think Black Panther was probably the only one possibly the only one I worked on, which I think I had a really strong directorial authority on it. That wasn't then taken by the studio, and then they went, rip it apart, put it back together, try and make it work in a different way. And so Black Panther was really solid, really solid. And I think it helps that Ryan Coogler had a lot to do with the screenwriting, because he tends to write his own films to a large degree, and he's also a very, 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 very good filmmaker. Yes. Not to say that no one else that I've worked on in the MCU hasn't been a great filmmaker, but it's the degree of creative authority they have and what they produce, and how robust it is when a Kevin Feige comes and says it needs to do this now. So I worked on Thor: Love and Thunder, and Thor: Love and Thunder was a film that could have been great because the idea behind it was so good, and and Taika had done a lovely script working with other people, and Taika also writes his own stuff. And there was a script, and the whole concept was the basic idea was Thor was a man who had been so damaged by what had happened to him over the course of the phase 1 to 3 or whatever it was of the MCU, and the loss that he had, and the fact that he's also not necessarily the most emotionally mature. Instead of actually learning from it, what he'd done is he'd retreated, and instead of going, all right, I'm a better human being now, he'd gone, I now renounce violence.
Right.
I am not going to do anything more. I am now going to be a peaceful man in this universe because I am basically running away from my problems and my loss and my grief. And that sets up this wonderful thing where he's doing that, and then everything on the story, Gore the God Butcher coming to kill all the gods, a better Thor, who is also his ex-girlfriend, turning up and being better than him as well, and everything about his people being threatened and the children being taken, all sort of stuff, is forcing him to do what he doesn't want to do. And it was such a clear idea, and it was great. And and then when they and I think the point being that I think at some point they went, we really want to make this film more about Jane and Thor, and that derailed that idea, and it was gone. It basically completely left the picture, and then they had this huge emotional gap in the middle of the film, which had to be then filled by a love story that didn't really work because they hadn't shot it that way. And I think to a large degree, I think Taika Waititi, rather than going, this is what I want to do, went, fuck it, you guys do it. And so they did, but it takes someone like Taika to know how to cut together humor as well. And I think the humor in the film didn't land because he didn't have someone cutting it to make it work. So it's just like, we'll just put that joke in as it is. We won't tweak it and work it and make it, editorially fiddle around with it to make it snappy and work. All this sort of stuff that you really needed. So, you sit there just going, anyway. I am derailing this conversation magnificently. Sorry.
No, that's interesting. I love we don't I don't talk to people very often that have firsthand experience working on an MCU film. So I think it's very interesting, and I think that was a valuable inside kind of perspective on Thor: Love and Thunder, because as like a fan or somebody that's not in the industry sitting out and watching that one specifically, it does kind of look like Taika going like throwing his hands up in the air and being like, "Yeah, I don't, yeah,
Yeah,
whatever."
yeah.
It's
I
interesting.
mean, I do have strong memories of being on the set one day, and I'm probably telling stories out of school, but instead of directing, Taika was essentially getting a massage. He was on a massage table behind the video feed, being massaged by someone and screaming and carrying on because obviously he was letting everybody know that he was quite cross and he wasn't going to
That's
direct that day.
amazing.
He was going to get a bloody massage instead. And I don't know whether that was a deliberate thing or not, but I do have strong memories of Taika just going, "I'm not playing ball. I'm going to have a massage instead." But anyway,
No, yeah, no, that's a really incredible story. I haven't heard that one before. Wow.
Anyway, I mean, God love him. I've worked with Taika on 4 projects now. Only shit. Only one of which so far has actually been made, and that's Thor. But
Right.
I've worked on got Akira for 3 weeks
Oh, wow.
before it got killed. Um,
Yeah.
and that was interesting. It was my first experience of actually working with Taika, and I've recently done a little bit of storyboarding on Clara and the Sun, which is going to be a very interesting piece to see how we go. And and I did a year working on his Star Wars, which may or may not ever happen. Who knows?
Oh,
But
interesting.
he's a really interesting filmmaker, but he needs to be interested in what he does.
Of course.
And I think because he's so busy doing so many different things, I think he, if someone's not interested in him, he can just go, right, well, I'm just going to go and look at that now, and I'll focus on that. And he's always interesting to work with. Let's put it that way. Anyway, derailing the conversation again.
Well, so you mentioned working on his Star Wars film, which, as you said, may or may not happen. It's Star Wars as a film franchise seems a little bit in the air right now. Um, but I also saw that you did some storyboarding for Attack of the Clones, and I was just wondering how involved you were with that, and if how closely you may or may not have worked with George Lucas, who's another legend named George.
So not only did I work directly with George Lucas, which just doesn't happen, and that was only because of the situation that we found ourselves in. He was already in Sydney, um, um, and I was working on Mad Max at the time. So I
Mhm.
was doing Fury Road, and I got rung up by the production manager, who was a production manager of Red Planet. So he remembered me. And Nick Gellard, who was the fight coordinator, he wanted to storyboard a sequence to show George Lucas, and it was his version of what the Obi-Wan Kenobi Jango Fett fight on the landing platform was going to be. And this production manager said, "Oh yeah, I know a guy. I'll give him a ring." And so I got asked whether I'd come in and actually talk to Nick about it. And so Star Wars. Oh, but I'm doing Mad Max. Oh, Mad Max. Oh, what do I do? What do I do? So I asked George Miller, George, look, I've been asked whether I can actually do a little bit on Star Wars. Is it okay if I can do a little bit of that? And George went, oh, yes, you can do that. 2 things you must promise me. 1, don't work so hard. You are useless storyboarding Mad Max during the day. You can only do Star Wars after hours. And 2, I want to know how George Lucas works.
Of
Um,
course.
and I went, right, no problems, George. I can let you know. So went and talked to Nick Gillard. Ended up storyboarding a sequence for him over the course of a weekend, which got sent to Lucas just before he came to Sydney. And when he arrived in Sydney, I then got called by his assistant, who said, George would like to storyboard some other stuff on this film. Are you available? So I ended up doing 4 months on episode 2 at the same time as I was storyboarding Mad Max. So I do Mad Max from the hours of 9 till 5, and then I would rush home, and then I would storyboard on Star Wars from about 6:30 to about 4 o'clock in the morning, and then I have a hour's sleep, and then I'd get back up, and then I'd do another couple of hours on Star Wars, and then I'd go to work and do Mad Max again, and I'd do that 6 days a week. And so it was interesting period.
Yeah, that
And I
sounds.
worked, so I'd go in on Saturdays and work directly with Lucas, and I'd sit down with him and give him the storyboard, and he'd go, okay, thank you very much. He would never look at the storyboards. He'd just tap them out, and he'd put to his side and go, okay, thanks very much. Okay, today we're going to do a space chase. And I never saw the script, by the way.
Oh my
Never saw the
gosh,
script.
really?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's not unusual, by the way. On Black Panther, I never saw a script either. Not at the first, anyway. A lovely brief with Lucas, which for the chase through the asteroid field with the whole sonic mines and stuff like that. It was like, today we're going to do a space chase. And it's like, okay, yep. Now, when I'm doing an animated face, I'm me. And when I'm doing the face, it's Lucas. And I was like, today we're going to do a space chase. I was like, okay, yeah. Between who? Oh, between Jango Fett and Obi-Wan Kenobi. Okay, right. Who's Jango Fett? Oh, he's the clone father of Boba Fett. Right. And who's chasing who? Oh, Jango Fett has been chased by Obi-Wan Kenobi. Okay. What else? What else is going to be in the chase? I'm thinking there's probably going to be asteroids. Okay, yeah. And anything else? Oh, I was hoping you could tell me. Like, okay. So yes, that's pretty much the kind of stuff that worked. And so like the whole idea of sonic mines, droids seeking missiles, and all sort of stuff was out of here. You're just going, oh, okay, depth charges, oh shit, oh this, that. I think Ben Burt was in the same room at the same time as we always met in the editing suite. And so Ben Burt would be sitting at the editing machine going, what about this? What about that? And I think Ben suggested a smoke screen, which didn't make it through the final cut, although I think I storyboarded it. But yeah, interesting process where you would just do stuff and throw mud at a wall and hope someone got stuck. And someone did. I'm quite surprised how sticky the idea of that depth charge, that sonic mine became. I see that everywhere now, and I think that's entirely not to do with the concept, but entirely to do with Ben Burt's fantastic sound effects that he put to it. But you sit there just going, I came up with that one. Oh,
Yeah, no, I mean, it's an
special.
incredible image.
Yeah, but anyway, but you sit there just going, yeah, but that's the work of a whole bunch of people that makes that indelible image and that indelible sound, and you sit there just going, yeah, that's filmmaking, isn't it? It's not just one person; it's everybody.
Yeah, it's a collaborative medium.
Mm.
How often then does something like that, or in Furiosa, I saw you post on social media the mother's reflection in her eyes, right? That shot, like that's an image that you had come up with. How often does something like that, where it's like an original image that you have an idea for in the storyboard, ends up represented on screen?
That comes up all the time. I mean, look, because I don't have a colossal background in film, I tend to work on a more or less instinctive base, and it's more about the storytelling as opposed to that's a cool image. And you you're reacting visually to a story. And that's your job as a storyboarder. How do I tell this story visually? And most of the time, good 80% of the time, no one else knows. Sometimes you've got a director who has some sort of idea. George is one of the ones who generally does tend to have an idea, although not necessarily the case. But you always come up with those little bits where you just go, that image springs to mind. You just go, oh, that would be a great way. But storyboarding ends up, starts like that, incredibly hard to understand and really badly drawn. But
Sure.
but you muck around with ideas and you try and figure out how to tell a story visually and as efficiently as possible. And these things come to you. And for all those very few moments that stick, and people just go, "Wow, it's a great image," or "Wow, it's a great moment." There's probably 100 that you did that either don't even make it or people don't even notice. But I've always worked on the basis that when you're working with a director, you listen to them. They tell you what you want, or what they want, hopefully. Not all the time, but you really, really sit down and you listen to them, and then you try to figure out how to give them back what they're after, plus 10% more.
Mm-hmm.
And usually if they get that, they're usually happy. That's a kind of self-defense mechanism, because usually, unless you've got something seriously wrong, they just go, "Oh, great, I never thought of that," and they're happy, and they just go, "I don't need to do any changes," because you don't want to have to redraw the whole damn thing again. Not that is always the case. I mean, God, I worked on one sequence for Ant-Man and the Wasp where I worked for 3 months on this elaborate car chase with the shrinking van, and and they were being chased down a freeway by SWAT teams, and there was shrinking van being shot at by SWAT guys with machine guns and all this sort of stuff, and it was very, very, very complicated. And I worked on it for 3 months, and then I sent it off, and the director's assistant sent me a message back just going, "Have you seen the new script?" No.
Oh my
She went,
gosh.
"Oh, we should probably send you the new script." So, okay, send me the new script. Oh, fuck. Totally different. Totally different. Anyway, and then you said, and you do it again. That
Right.
doesn't often happen, but you have those moments where you have to redo everything. But hopefully they're reasonably far and few in between.
Of course.
Now I need a drink. I like that story. I like that story, but it makes me want to really have a strong gin and tonic.
No, I mean, yeah, that sounds kind of ridiculous almost now thinking about, well, it can't be too uncommon though in something like the MCU where like the production just are so massive that they span like multiple films, and there's like ridiculous like overhead on overhead on overhead, that's something gets shuffled in then.
It also doesn't help when you're not there.
Right,
I
of course.
work from home, and I have since 2011, so I'm well over it. I'm so sick of it. 13 years. But you are here, you're not there, and if you're not there, it's easier to be overlooked, which is both great when you're running late on the storyboard sequence and you just go, "I hope no one rings me and says, yeah, where are you at?" Because I'm really behind. But at the same time, it's just like, yeah, but if there's a new script that I really needed to know about, it would have been nice to be remembered in a timely fashion, not 3 months later.
Right.
These are the breaks, and that's filmmaking. And the story, and because the storyboard artist in filming, I'm just going to adjust the screen a little bit because it's giving me the shits. The storyboard artist in production, the storyboard artist doesn't sit easily in any department. We're kind of art department.
Art department,
but we're kind of not, because we don't really work with a production designer.
Right.
We work with the director, so we're kind of the director's department. but that's kind of like the first ADs and the so we're kind of not. So are we working with the writers? We're kind of, we're storyboarding, we're kind of writing sequences visually. Are we writers? We don't sit neatly anywhere. And so in a weird way, more often than not, the person who manages me on a film is usually the director's assistant, who probably sitting there just going, "Oh God, they're so fucking painful. Oh, do I have to do this?" But that's how it works, and sometimes it works well, and sometimes it doesn't work well. But you need to be there and constantly communicating with them in order to actually get what's going on. And everybody's very, very, very busy on a film, so it's very easy for you to slip between the gaps when you don't naturally fit anywhere.
Right.
So, anyway, yeah, it's a weird one.
Thank you so much for taking time out of your. Oh my gosh! Thank you so much for taking time out of your day to talk to me. Oh my gosh, to talk with me, Mark.
Okay. We're gonna do news. First of all, reminders. Like, comment, subscribe if you like listening to us talk about the Watchers, and if you liked that interview that Doug did. And rate us on Spotify, Apple Podcast, all that stuff. Follow us at our links. And first piece of news: Harris Dickinson, Paul Mescal, Barry
Oh,
Keoghan,
Jesus
and Charlie
Christ.
Rowe are rumored to star as the Beatles in the upcoming
Who's
Sam
Charlie
Mendes
Rowe?
biopics. Yeah,
That's a great question.
I think he's only been in
It's
TV
so
stuff.
funny to be like Harris Dickinson, Barry Keoghan, Paul Mescal, Charlie Rowe.
He kind of looks like George. That's who he's playing, right, George?
Yes, he's
Well, it's
playing
like
George
he makes
Harrison,
if
yeah.
he was like if we have 4 Charlie Rowes, it'd probably make more sense.
Yeah, it's like
Yeah.
weird that they like picked like 3 of the hottest actors in the world right now, and then like this guy that nobody knows.
Is Harris Dickinson that famous? I mean, to like film
He's like,
Twitter.
sure, but it's
I
still
mean,
like
like is
he's
Paul
he's
Mescal
definitely
that famous? Like in
Yeah,
like
he's in
yeah, they're
Normal People
definitely
and like
Harris
Gladiator
Dickinson.
2.
Yeah, but
obviously people Gladiator 2 has not come out yet. Like, you
Yeah.
can't
It's
use-
going to come out
you
before
can't
these
use
Beatles movies
Gladiator
come
2.
out.
You can't use Gladiator 2.
Just like
But Harris
it's coming out.
Dickinson,
It's coming out before the Beatles movies.
they're these are
Not
actors who are
fair.
at these are all people who are at like the top of studios target. Like like they
Yeah,
know
I
that
mean,
Harris
these are all
Dickinson is
rising
going to be
stars.
more and more popular. Like
And then like Charlie Day, I don't know.
Charlie Day.
He was Luigi, but like, I mean, like, can he Luigi?
What if they just
George
got
Har-
It's Always Sunny in
Luigi,
Philly
George
cast to
Harrison?
play
Like,
the Beatles?
I don't know. I mean, Danny DeVito, Ringo. I don't even. It's just like, what are we doing, man?
No,
That's
I
funny,
mean, I
yeah.
think I'll say this. I think it's a stupid idea. These Beatles
Yeah.
movies, it's just a dumb
I mean, it's dumb.
idea.
I just think it's I don't think it's a I don't from their perspective I don't think it's a dumb idea, but I do think it's an annoying idea from the perspective of
Oh, it's
like
gonna make
promising
money.
actors who we
How much money did Yesterday make?
like 300 million or something probably.
Well, but it's just like this is a television idea.
Oh,
It's
I did
like
not
this is an
make it.
idea for a miniseries, not a fucking
Yeah.
movies. What are we talking about?
I just don't know, but my point is just that like I don't like that like this is what they're spending time on, like a Paul Mescal or a Harris Dickinson.
I
like,
can't take Sam Mendes seriously.
Well, that's the
Yeah.
thing. That's the thing. If it's not Sam Mendes,
You're
right?
a
Let's say this.
jackass. If
I was
you
gonna
make
say,
this,
what-
this idea is stupid. Don't.
This idea is stupid. But I was
If
gonna
you
say, like,
come up with this idea, you're saying, "Oh, I'm gonna make 4 Beatles movies." You're not a real artist. You're a fake, phony loser. I hate you.
okay, calm down.
Like, I don't think that's a real
do you know-
artistic idea. I just think that's a joke.
But okay, you're you're being really ridiculous right now.
Do we? Oh, what were you gonna say, Doug? Sorry.
I was gonna say, what if it was Peter Jackson doing this? Are you guys more excited?
Sure.
Like notably more excited? Like
No,
I'd be
I don't
pissed
care.
off.
I don't care about the Beatles.
Okay,
You
okay.
come back
Like,
to do more
there's
Beatles.
I don't think there's
shit?
I
Oh
don't
my
think there's a
God, dude.
director. I don't think there's a director that could tell these stories that would get me like incredibly excited to watch it, because if one of my favorite directors was doing this, I would be upset that this is the movie that they're spending time making.
Yeah.
Spike.
Yeah, like Spike Lee's
Lee.
Beatle movies, I'd be like, I don't
See
yeah, like let's
That would be
no
interesting. I'd be down for that.
thanks. I mean, obviously I'd watch them, but it's just like, do
It's
we know
just-
if these movies are coming out like
Can these be
like
horror
close
movies?
to each other?
I think they are.
Okay.
I think they're
For
shooting. I think they're shooting them all like simultaneously because
a
like
year.
Yeah.
all of them are
For
going to
a
be in
year.
all of the other
Well,
movies
that's
playing
what
each
because
other.
the reason why
Like,
I'm asking is because like eventually when we get around to this discourse in the year when we're back at award season, can you imagine how annoying it would be if we have like 4 Best Actor nominees
No, I think the
for
Ringo
Beatles?
movie is better. The
And
Ringo
people are
movie is
saying
better
like
than
they're
the
like trying to
Harrison
pick and
movie.
choose between that. Oh, that would be so bad.
Eric Keoghan for his performance in a
as
George
Ringo
Harrison
Starr.
movie. Is Ringo performance in the George Harrison movie?
yeah, the Ringo performance in the George Harrison movie, best supporting
Oh,
actor.
and they're showing up in they're showing up in each other's movies.
Exactly.
Yes,
Okay.
yeah,
That
that's
was
what
the
yeah,
bit.
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
That
No,
was
I
the
guess you
joke.
can't do it without that, but that's still just like that's crazy.
Because it's all because all their movies
It
are
should
about like
be-
the same
They
like
should
moment,
rotoscope it.
and it's all about like one event in Beatles history, and it's like
Richard
from the
Linklater's
perspective of
Beatle movie rotoscoped.
Okay, that I would watch.
that would be cool.
That
No,
I would
actually,
Like the
Richard
psychedelic,
Linklater rotoscoped.
the like psychedelic Beatles
Yes,
like stuff, but it's like rotoscope. It's like the Zemeckis animated movie that they were gonna do, but instead of it, it's like Beatles rotoscope, with like Paul Mescal. It's like what? It's just Paul Mescal rotoscope, but he's just being Paul McCartney. All right, let's do it.
Yeah, next piece of news is, and this is like a thing that we've talked about in the past, but I guess it's just ramping up, is that the Academy is exploring the possibility of a stunt category for the Oscars. Which we talked about that around Oscar season, and I guess now it's
you have to
like
explore it.
yeah, it's like a
Well,
weird conversation that they're having.
I think that there is
You have a
like
beekeeper
an
poster?
ethical dilemma that maybe that's like holding it up a little bit. Because it's like, oh, are we gonna award people for doing something that is
Are we
inherently
gonna award
dangerous?
these no names? Yeah.
No, not no names, but it's like, are we gonna are we gonna set this precedent that like, oh,
I
if
know, I
you do
know.
like the most dangerous,
If
like
you lose your
risky
leg, you
thing,
get an
so you
Oscar.
think it's an
Yeah.
ethical issue?
I think that's why. I think that the ethical issue is why it's taking so long to hold up, because people in the industry want it, obviously, but like I think that some people that other people in the industry are maybe like have more power.
Yeah,
Like
it's like
I
let's
don't
not
know.
let's not push
It's
the,
like
but also
it's
it's like
kind of
yeah.
weird. It's like, oh, you can break your leg, but we can't give you a trophy for it.
yeah, that's what I mean, because it's like because these things are happening anyway.
Hey, you're gonna break
It's
your
like,
leg no matter what.
But it's like
you
if
you know,
get
like
a
this,
trophy.
like this, everybody acknowledges that this is like a
But now
thing
it's
that is
incentivized
required of them.
that's the thing, but it would be
by
like
a golden
incentivized.
man.
Yeah, by a
Yeah.
golden man.
But you're incentivized to have a
Make
job.
money. Yeah, have a
Like
job.
it's like, you know,
Be
like
in a
you're
movie.
incentivized. Like these people, I mean, it's like
Win
for
a
them, like it's
Razzie.
like this is like nobody's gonna be a stunt person if they don't like being a stunt person.
Someone's gonna
No,
die.
it's not about being a stunt.
Someone's gonna die.
It's incentivizing
doing
the stunts to get
more dangerous
more
stunts.
dangerous.
Yeah,
Yes,
gotta be
yeah,
more
yeah.
dangerous.
But it's like, are they rewarding like that, or are they just rewarding like this is a movie with the best stunt work, which like then doesn't really
Is it a movie thing or is it a man
Yeah.
thing?
That's what I mean, because it's like, because then you're not really, if it's just a movie thing, then I feel like you're not really incentivizing anybody to do more. If you're just saying like this is the
You're
movie with the
incentivizing
best
many
stunt
people to
work.
do more.
Sure, but like that's
Are we
based on,
incentivizing one man to risk his life,
that's
or
like
many
based on the
men
that's
and
based on the
women?
movie. It's like nobody's writing in tougher
I
stunts
am.
into
Okay,
their
but
I am.
no, no. Here's the thing.
Hey, make this guy fucking die.
People do. What do you mean? People do write in. Because
Okay,
here's the thing.
sure, but
What would have won? Let's say
Kevin
like
looks like
last
this
year
right
there
now.
was a stunt category. What would have won the stunt category? Probably Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning Part 1, right?
yes.
Where there's
We
a stunt where
can't be
Tom
enabling
Cruise
that.
Yeah,
like
and Tom Cruise
rides
is
a
a
motorcycle
psychopath,
off
dude.
of a fucking.
He's a
That's what I'm
psychopath.
saying.
That's
We
like
have to
his
stop
motivation.
enabling
Are we rewarding people for being psychopaths? That's
Yeah.
that's
We
I
should
think
be
that's
we should be
that's
rewarding Tom Cruise for something.
of
Yeah,
course I
God,
agree. I
damn it, dude,
agree.
he just sit.
Of course I agree.
He should be like allowed on that stage for some reason.
No,
So
I mean
might
he
as
should have.
well.
He should
I mean,
just
all he's
be.
gotta do is slap Chris Rock, and then he's
Okay.
okay.
I have this. I mean, I still have the crazy hot take. I think Tom Cruise should have won Best Actor for Top Gun Maverick, like the Best Actor Oscar.
What,
For
who
Top
won
Gun
that
Maverick.
year?
I don't even remember.
Billy Lynn.
What?
What year did that come out? Top
Top Gun Maverick came out in
That came in, like,
2022,
the
right? So
70s
that would
or
be
the 80s or the
2023 Best Actor is
Yeah.
Brendan Fraser for The Whale.
Oh yeah, yeah. I know.
I mean, not a
Right, that's
chance
right.
Tom had, right?
Yeah.
We can't be enabling that shit. Like, I don't know. We're talking about stunts. We're enabling the
Oh my
whale. I mean, it's like,
Okay.
fucking hell. They even thought about that
Uh,
before they talked about the stunts.
next piece of news. Emma Stone will star in and produce Nathan Fielder's feature directorial debut Checkmate for A24.
Cool.
Yeah, this is exciting, I think.
I'm happy that Nathan Fielder, who is
make the
one of our
movie.
most respected artists among people our age, I would say,
Yeah.
or like people that
Nerds.
like our kind of people, is making something that's not a TV show. 'Cause it's like the
Yeah.
only medium he works in is fucking
Maybe your
television.
kind of
Yeah.
people.
I mean, he's also doing some of the best work in television, but
Yeah, I
it is
know, but like
exciting
we
that
don't
would, like,
cover TV.
yeah.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
TV's fucking for losers.
Right.
Maybe you should man up.
Well, that's what he's doing, and Emma Stone
Yeah.
is starring in it, which is exciting.
Yeah, Emma Stone be starring and shit. Holy.
Yeah, that's what she does. Yeah, and she's doing a lot of producing
She's
recently.
pretty good at it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
she's
good at
big time.
acting. She's doing a lot. No, I'm excited. Have you watched like an episode of something Nathan Fielder has done before? Not like a whole series, just
Nope.
like a okay. Next piece of news. David Lowery is developing a film adaptation of Atessa Mosfeg's Death in Her Hands. It follows an elderly widow whose life is upturned when she finds a cryptic note on a walk in the woods that makes her question everything about her new home.
It's the Watchers prequel.
Yeah, sure.
I
Old
think
lady goes into the woods.
David Lowery, Atessa Mosfeg adaptation seems to make sense, but this is I'm not familiar with this book as I am with her others.
What others are you familiar with?
Well, she did Eileen, right? She did My Year of Rest and
Thomas
Relaxation. What?
The Thomas
Thomas and Mackenzie. Yeah. She did My Year of Rest and Relaxation, which I think what's his name wants to adapt, Luca Guadagnino, right? That's like one of the many things he's rumored to adapt.
Yeah.
I also bought her one book. It's called like Lapvana because our friend John told me to buy it.
Gotcha.
It looks like a very John book. There's like a little sheep on the cover. It's I haven't started reading it yet, but I'm sure it's good. Yeah. So like based on those that I am familiar with, it seems like he's a director that would want to adapt one of her books, but I haven't heard of this one, so I don't know anything about it other than this little description that we have. Yeah, it's exciting. New David Lowery movie.
Well, there's already one that got shot or something, like Mother Mary.
Oh, right. Yeah, which is like that one is really exciting. Like I
need the trailer for Mother Mary fucking yesterday, bro.
Yeah.
What are we talking about? That movie sounds so good.
Do we have the Hunter Schafer news in here?
I don't believe so. So if you want to drop it in now while you're talking about it,
that she's gonna be in the Blade Runner TV show.
Oh right,
yes.
I didn't include that because I did include one piece of TV news, but I usually when I'm doing news, I'm trying to avoid TV.
Well, I just thought that because she's in Mother Mary, but she just got cast in the which is it's Michelle Yeoh and Hunter Schafer.
Yeah,
it's gonna be a big show. It's gonna be a big show. Yeah.
That'll be exciting. Maybe finally it looks like a TV episode. Who's to say?
I'm gonna for sure watch it because I
will also watch it. Yeah.
I mean, I love Blade Runner, but also just like
Hunter. What is Hunter? I'm interested in Hunter Schafer's like her appearance in the film.
I think she's gonna be a Blade Runner probably.
That'd be so cool.
You know what I mean? Yeah. Or she's either going to be like the main. Well, actually, no. Michelle Yeoh. Between one of Michelle Yeoh and Hunter Schafer is going to be a robot. One of them is going to be a replicant, and then one of them is going to be a Blade Runner. Is what I'm assuming.
Yeah. That'll be interesting. Is it like do we know? Is this supposed to? It's just like a limited series.
Yeah, I think it's a limited series. I think, or no, actually, I think it's a. I don't know if they have announced.
I think it's like 10 years.
Yeah, it could go on for. Yeah.
Oh, I mean, I feel like if they were going to do more than one season, it probably wouldn't be the same people return. Like I doubt.
Dude, what if this is a movie? Dude, imagine this is a movie.
I don't know. Has Michelle Yeoh done a lot of TV?
Ridley Scott's
recently,
2099, starring Hunter Schafer.
Done some TV since Everything Everywhere All at Once. But this is cool. I love cyberpunk stuff. I love cyberpunk TV shows.
Like running the show.
I don't know. I know it's an Amazon thing. And I know it's a spin-off of specifically 2049.
That's what I was referencing before. I'd have to go look up the name because I just saw it on I saw it on Twitter today, but some Amazon show. It's like the #1 show Amazon has ever had. Never fucking heard about it. Never had no idea it was a thing that came out. It's like the #1 show on Amazon right now. I just feel like Amazon is where shows go to like be
It
irrelevant.
says in Los Angeles 2099, Cora, in little parentheses, Schaefer, lived her entire life on the run, a chameleon forced to adopt numerous identities to secure a stable future for her brother. She assumes one final identity and is forced to partner with Olwen, Michelle Yeoh, a Blade Runner who is confronting the end of her life. The two are pulled into a widening conspiracy that poses an existential threat to a city that's fighting to be reborn. There is your
I Google who the showrunner is. It looks like Google's answer is Soka Luisa.
Yeah, I
Who
just got to that
has
part in the Variety article.
only
Yeah,
who has
Soka
only
Luisa.
done one other show before, which is
Shining Girls.
Shining Girls. It has
It
good
says that
reviews.
Ridley Scott was supposed to
and-
direct it. Now he's only executive producer.
Oh, she also, but this Soka Luisa person was a producer on the Halo show and a producer on the Strange Angel show. I don't know what that is.
Interesting. Okay.
Interesting.
Next piece of news that I do have on here, which I don't think you guys give a shit about, is that a new Hunger Games book titled Sunrise on the Reaping will be released in March of 2025, and already a film adaptation of the book is in the works at Lionsgate. It takes place during the second quarter quell won by Haymitch, who is played by Woody Harrelson in the Hunger Games movies. Do we have fan castings for young Woody Harrelson?
Well,
no, but how do I want to be like an extra that just gets shot? That'd be so fun.
I hear this one's gonna be bigger. Is my understanding?
Really?
Because the Hunger Games that Haymitch.
Yeah, no, Olivia Rodrigo song in the last one.
No, but you know how like no, I meant like the actual Hunger Game. Like you know how like in the plot in the world of the Hunger Games they like do things to spice up each Hunger Games.
yes.
In the one that Woody Harrelson competed in, the like twist was that they like doubled the size of people in the Hunger Games to like make it more entertaining. So I think this one is going to be like
so they'll need
more people dying is what I meant. Like it's going to be like 48 people instead of 24. So it's going to be a lot of action, I assume.
I will say
probably a 3-hour movie.
People are so excited for this because I understand because Haymitch is like a fan favorite character.
Yeah.
Correct me if I'm wrong. I did read the books as a kid or whatever. But like correct me if I'm wrong. A big reason why Haymitch is like a fan favorite character is because he was played by Woody Harrelson.
Yeah.
So like, why are we excited about this?
It's because I like Woody Harrelson has a particular charm that like not, like when he plays a character like that. But
Woody Harrelson with hair.
It's a well written enough role to like be, but I don't know that like
it's the same. Is that guy who directs all of them gonna do it again? Probably.
Yeah, same guy, Francis Lawrence.
It's
the thing is like part of why the Woody Harrelson character is appealing is because of like him where he's at in the movies. Like I feel like the young version of his character is not as exciting of a character. Like they could probably do whatever they want with the young version of him, which is like I don't think they really have to. Well, I know. I'm saying Suzanne Collins could do whatever she wants with the character.
No, but I think it's like infinite money glitch because you could just make a movie about any of the Hunger Games like years.
Yeah. Well, this is like I don't know how often does this happen. How often does this happen? I think it would have to just be like a major franchise thing, right? Where an author's like, hey, I'm writing my next book, and then they're just like, okay, we're gonna make the movie and like already confirm it before she's done writing the book.
That's how they did the Harry Potter movie.
Yeah, that's how they did Harry Potter. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
and I guess like Game of Thrones as well, but then
only if you're top dog, if you like
you have to
are
be
like the biggest writer in the fucking world.
Yeah, it's only if you have
like massive
one of like
Suzanne Collins.
Yeah, like Suzanne Collins.
Yeah,
I will say though, out of the 3 writers who just referenced, Suzanne Collins, I think writes the worst books.
Yeah, but probably the best person out of them.
Hey, whoa! What did George?
Oh, actually, I don't know.
What did George R. R. Martin do?
I was just comparing her to J.K. Rowling.
When are we getting speaking of trailers that we need to get? When are we gonna get the damn fucking Paul W.S. Anderson trailer? for that
Yeah,
George
that
R. R.
movie's coming
Martin.
out like soon.
Are they ever gonna make
People went to test screening, so that speaking of test screenings.
On that subject, I don't know if we've ever talked about this in the news, because I feel like they like speculated on this or something, but the idea of making like a franchise out of those A Court of Thorns and Roses books, like that would be like bigger than the Hunger Games, wouldn't it? Like that's like the biggest book series in the world, dude. They would make, and Owen hasn't even heard of it. It's like
those books
that's
are
like
really
literally
big.
and that is genuinely like the biggest.
Wait, what is it
books
called?
be
What is it called?
A Court of Thorns and Roses. It's a
Yeah.
Sarah J. Maas. It's a Sarah J. Maas series. She's
Are
like
they-
the biggest author
Sarah J.
alive right
Maas.
now, pretty much.
Sarah J.
Like,
Maas.
I don't know if that's
okay,
She
not
went to
like
Hamilton
well, like
College.
her books
but
are
these
like the
books
most
are really
successful.
popular.
Yeah,
Yeah.
maybe not by name, but you know, like she's selling more books right now than she has 2 ongoing.
It says
like,
it's coming to
series.
Hulu with Ron Moore.
It's gonna be a TV series, I think.
Yeah, because I
With
think I
Ron
remember
Moore.
like reading something about how she was like a bit, I guess, like picky. I don't know about them being adapted, but like those movies would make.
I mean, yeah, books
a
deserve to
fuck ton
be.
of money.
I'm reading a
the
Variety
TV
article right now.
scene.
For sure, it's gonna be a Hulu exclusive TV show.
That's
what a
kinda lame,
fumble! What a
but-
fumble! What a
Yeah.
No, but I've read the books. Maybe it makes perfect sense.
It's like no, but you say it's a fumble, but I do have to admit it is kind of
Get your bag,
seemingly.
Queen.
It is kind of seemingly looking like it is setting up to be the next generation's Game of Thrones, which TV needs desperately. Like TV needs another Game of Thrones because TV shows suck right now. So that would be good. Anyway, we're going off the rails. News. Cillian Murphy, speaking of TV, will officially return as Tommy Shelby in the Peaky
This
Blinders
person's returning every other
for
week.
Netflix. And he said, "This is one for the fans, like me."
Oh, brother, that's when you know it's gonna suck.
No. He wasn't talking about the movie though. He was talking about himself returning. He was like, "They want me to return. Like, we're
this one's
whatever."
for the fans.
Yeah, it's not gonna. I said this. I think I said this already
That's
on the
what I say
podcast, but like, it's
when
not gonna be a movie worth
gonna suck.
watching unless you.
Oh yeah, I'm
like
not gonna
the
watch
show.
it.
Yeah, I mean, unless you're a fan of the show, it's not gonna be worth watching.
Do you remember when? Do you remember?
Do you remember when Cillian Murphy was in good movies?
Yeah,
do you remember,
literally last year.
Yeah,
Yeah, it seems so long ago.
No, do you remember when George got invited to like what's that Idris Elba show?
Knuckles with Sonic?
No, dude. No, it's like the big like Idris Elba is like a detective or whatever, and that show's like
Luther?
3 seasons. Luther, thank you. Like I'm thinking Lupin, but that wasn't. I knew that wasn't right.
That's Harry Potter.
Yeah, the werewolf.
Yeah, Luther. George got invited to the premiere for the Luther movie, which is like similar to this, where it's like just like it's like a movie at the end of the show after the show's ended, and he didn't watch any of the show, and his review was just like, I didn't really know what was going on.
That's how I felt when I watched the Sopranos movie. I watched the Sopranos movie that came out a few years ago in like a theater full of like New Jersey Italians who are obsessed with the Sopranos, and it was such a like loud experience of them being so excited whenever they like named a character from the TV show. I was just like, what the fuck is going on, dude? I had no idea what was happening. That was silly. And I didn't like that movie, but whatever. Anyway, and then we have Jake Gyllenhaal joining Christian Bale and Jesse Buckley and his sister Maggie Gyllenhaal as the bride. And there was a separate quote from Jake Gyllenhaal where he was asked about taking roles for pleasure and said, "There are movies I've made that people have said to me, man, that was intense. And there have been many different times where I'm like, wait, what's it like to make a movie?" And be like, that was just fun. Roadhouse was definitely that. So I think that kind of, I posted a TikTok about this recently, but I think that kind of answers my question as to like where he is in his career and why he just stopped making good movies with the exception of Ambulance.
But did he just...
But well, this piece of news is exciting because he's gonna be in a movie with like real actors.
Oh, okay. I tapped out. Sorry.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like he's, who's to say if Maggie Gyllenhaal's movie will be good because we've only seen her make one movie, so it's like the sample size is small.
Did you see the set
like,
photos?
no, I did not. Are they good or
I
bad?
just
or
wish
yay
young
or nay?
John Mulaney was playing young cop or whatever.
Uh,
They took that from me, bro.
but my problem is I feel like does
John
this
Mulaney has been meant to play a cop for the past 10 years, and no one's brave enough to fucking do that shit.
Did you
bro.
see that John Mulaney's gonna host the Oscars probably next year?
I hope so, dude.
yeah, that would
The rumors are
the
hot.
I mean, if
the
no one's
viewership
gonna
would
pass
be
him in anything, he better be the
yeah.
fucking Oscar host.
Yeah,
Jesus.
if the industry's not gonna give him a fucking role in a movie.
Yeah, it was like, fuck,
Yeah.
I guess,
Which is
dude.
such a
Holy
weird
shit,
thing.
dude.
Why is that
Wait.
happening?
I don't know.
I mean, comedians are
Do you-
always weird.
No, but like, do you know how many like shitty comedians are getting cast in movies? Dude,
Well, but they're
they
like
got,
more aggressively like seeking out
Sure.
roles than he is.
Yeah.
You
Yeah,
know?
probably.
I mean, they're starting to put they're
But like,
starting to put Andrew Schultz in everything.
I just
Like,
dream of him in like a
I
noir.
dreamed a dream.
He's like perfect for like him and Mike Weiss, dude. As like
yeah, as a buddy
they're like
cop
they're
duo.
like the same guy.
Oh, okay.
They
No,
fit
yeah, I
in
don't.
my
I'm just excited
brain
for the
in the
Jake
same
Gyllenhaal
way that
thing.
they should be in like Hitchcock riffs for the rest of the time.
Right.
Bro.
Last piece of news. I don't know. I feel like you guys said you were kind of excited for this, but I don't
Probably
remember what you guys said. Elle Fanning and Talks to Star and Badlands, the
Oh,
standalone.
yeah.
I mean, Elle Fanning and
the
anything.
Prey
Oh
director,
yeah.
Dan Trachtenberg.
Give it to me.
Here's what they don't tell you: Elle Fanning's actually playing the Predator.
Oh, is that right?
Elle Fanning, confirmed Predator. All right, let's keep it rolling. No, I mean, I didn't like Prey.
Yeah, Prey
Yeah.
was okay.
I
It's
like
the same
Prey.
guy, right?
Yeah, same guy,
Yeah,
Dan
same guy.
Trachtenberg. He did 10 Cloverfield Lane as well.
I'm gonna be honest with you.
I
I think that for this to work, they need to give him like 30% more money.
I
Like the budget.
I think they should do like I like the idea of like a Dave Bautista in that Arnold role, like type shit. Like
Type
I don't
shit.
know. I don't know, dude.
But I think that they're not gonna do like an Arnold role, buddy. We're moving away from that.
Well, I need it.
It's a girl's world. It's
Oh
about,
my gosh.
it's
Okay,
about,
but I like Elle Fanning. I think Elle Fanning's cool.
yeah,
Yeah.
of course. Elle Fanning
Yeah,
is
sorry,
the
I
fucking
didn't-
goat.
All right.
That's our last piece of news, so we can wrap up there if we
What-
want.
what's
Next
Dave
week,
up to?
like we hinted at, next week, episode 71, we're going to be talking about the new Richard Linklater movie Hitman, and we're also going to be talking about Richard Linklater's filmography as a whole. Big episode next week. So we will see you later.
You're gonna get to watching.